This is NVHA 080007. It is March the 7th, 2008, our 282nd interview overall, and we're in LaPel, Indiana at the home of Bill and Linda Hormell. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for allowing us to come and do the interview.
You're more than welcome.
And let's start off with the easy stuff. What is your full name?
William Thomas Hormell.
Okay, now the William or the Thomas, were those family names or?
Both.
Okay.
Both were family names.
Okay.
I had an Uncle Will and an Uncle Tom.
Okay. All right.
So.
And what is your date of birth?
6/29/28.
Okay. And what was your rank at discharge?
Second class engineman.
Okay.
Engineman second, I guess.
Okay. Well, Engineman Hormell, where were you born?
Washington, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Okay.
So.
Now, I've heard of Washington. Is that? I'm trying to think of where that is.
It's about 28 to 30 miles from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I think it's just north and east.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very close to Pittsburgh.
Were you born at home or in?
No, I was born at Washington Hospital.
In the hospital.
Then my dad was working for the glass company, so when he came, he was sent from Washington, Pennsylvania to Brockway.
Okay.
In the mold shop.
Ah, okay.
And he spent most of his time there at Brockway. And then he came out here then in 1950, 51.
Okay.
As a foreman in the mold shop here at Brockway Glass at LaPel.
Well, let's start off a little bit about your mom. What was her name?
Her name was Edith Elizabeth Scott. Okay. And she was born in Washington, Pennsylvania. And she, of course, her and Dad came out here together. She passed away after they came out here. I don't remember the year. I think it was, I'm not real sure.
Yeah.
It must have been 74, 73 or 74.
Okay. What would you tell folks about her? What was she like?
Well, Mom was kind of old-fashioned. She enjoyed her home life. In fact, she was a stay-at-home mom till I graduated from high school, where my sister graduated, and just kind of the run-of-the-mill, take care of the kids at home kind of person. Yeah. She and Dad had a good social life. They went out occasionally, and a lot of times Dad had to, like a lodge meeting or something, but I can remember setting up and fixing Hires root beer and vanilla ice cream floats. And listen to the radio because we didn't have a television then. So.
Well, that sounds good now.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was nice.
Yeah.
We'd all get our pajamas, and whenever we were done with the ice cream, we went to bed. That was midnight snack. So.
Well, was she kind of a quiet woman, or?
Yeah, she was quiet, but very determined. She wasn't one to back off. I mean, if she had something to say, she generally expressed herself.
Yeah.
Very plainly.
Yeah.
And I remember she used to get very upset with any high-pressured salespeople. She had a very, very bad attitude toward them. So, you're not going to tell me what I'm going to buy, So it's sort of,
good for her.
Yeah, very independent that way.
Yeah, my mom was independent and is independent in that way. You can't tell her she can't do something.
Exactly.
She'll keep at it until she either gets it done or, by golly, it is impossible.
Right. Right.
Yes.
So.
It's just determination there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your dad, what was his name?
Ellis Jacob.
Ellis Jacob. Well, okay.
He wasn't overly fond of Jacob, so he was Ellis J. to most everybody.
Okay. Okay.
He didn't care for the Jacob part of it, but that's there again was family names. Both his first names were family.
Okay.
So.
And you say he was a glass worker? Or?
Yeah, he was a mold maker.
Okay.
In the glass factory, glass industry.
Well, it's hard work.
Yeah, it was dirty work, and a lot of it was hard. It was they were all cast iron molds, and they were fairly heavy, and a lot depending on the size of the bottle. Yeah. But the bigger the bottle, the heavier the equipment. But yeah, down here at the shop, they started out with rough castings. And went and finished. They'd make a full set of molds for a particular order, and that was his responsibility here at LaPel, was the foreman of the mold shop.
Now, was he a big man or?
No, he wasn't quite as tall as I am. He's probably about 5'6".
Okay.
and I would judge he weighed about 170 pounds.
Okay.
It's kind of rotund,
Yeah.
but very, very good natured, very congenial.
Yeah.
But until he got riled. I found that out the hard way a couple times.
Oh.
Yeah.
Kind of sounds as though if you got in trouble at school, then you could just count on getting double at home.
Boy, you got that right. Absolutely. He told me that several times. He said, "You get in trouble in school, buddy. You're in trouble when you get home."
Yeah.
Yeah, he meant what he said. That was one thing I had to give him, boy. When he told me when he wanted something done, I'd better have it done by the time he said, or I was in trouble.
Yeah.
So.
Do you have a favorite form of punishment, or?
Well, no, not really. Well, of course, and later, as I grew older, he had a tendency to shut me down. Say, "Hey, you're not going anywhere for a while."
Yeah.
Grounded,
Okay.
literally.
Yeah.
But he never did. He never did harm me physically.
Oh yeah.
But he warned my fanny a couple times.
Oh sure.
But I got playing around, coming home from school one evening, and a friend of mine, and I didn't get home till almost 7 o'clock, and school was out at 3. And that was a very, very wrong move for me. And he said, I said to go up to your room and drop your britches. He said, "I'll be up in a minute." He wasn't joking. He's about 3 steps behind me on the way up the stairs. So, and he did give me a few whacks with the belt, but that's.
I've never known anybody that was really harmed by any of that.
I think it was a good thing because I learned discipline from it.
Yeah.
From then on, I was home at 3 o'clock,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd go out and play after I got home and got my clothes changed rather than on the way home.
There you go.
So it was a lesson well learned.
Yeah. Well, these days it would be really dangerous.
Oh yeah.
But back
Yeah,
then.
he could have gone to jail for that.
Yeah, but I mean, for you to be out like that.
Oh, yeah.
It would have been really dangerous.
Yeah. And the fact is that we played along a creek that I had to cross on the way home,
Mm.
and the water at that particular time was very high.
Yeah.
And that was what really, I mean, that was bad enough with just being late.
Yeah.
But with the creek up like it was, that just added insult to injury.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. At least they was worrying about you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very relieved when I got there.
I bet.
Yeah.
First you relieved and then you punish them.
Yeah, there you go.
Been in that situation a few times with
Yeah.
my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy. How old was he? Is he still around, or is he gone?
My father?
Yeah.
He passed away in 1971.
71. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did the factory work affect his lungs any?
No, not see. He was in the mold shop,
Yeah.
and it was kind of away from all the smoke and oil around the machines.
Yeah.
Of course, we had a regular machine like milling machine and lathes and grinders and all that kind of stuff in the shop, but the dust and the smoke was mostly out in the production area.
Yeah.
So it didn't have. Just like he said, it was mostly he had a heart attack when sometime in his 60s, and he was 6 weeks off. He didn't do anything for 6 weeks,
Mm.
and he did say he said he learned a valuable lesson in that he had 8 hours in that factory or 9 or whatever, and he'd get done what he could get done in that 8 or 9 hours, and
Yeah.
he'd leave it there.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do that before. He'd bring it home with him,
Mhm.
and that's what got him in trouble.
Yeah.
But then he learned that leave it there, and I'll
Yeah.
go back the next morning and pick it up where I left off. If I'm not back the next morning, if I'm not here the next morning, somebody else will take care of it.
Yeah.
So that was his philosophy. Then after that, and he went to was a traveling troubleshooter for several years
Okay.
before he passed away. When they'd run into problems at a particular plant somewhere, they'd send him out to try to iron out the problems. And
Yeah.
most of the time, in the molding end of it, he was pretty sharp on it.
Yeah. That's quite a craft.
Yeah. Well, see, that's where I learned my trade.
Okay.
I wound up as a plastic tool maker at
Okay.
Guide, but it was because of the fact that I spent the apprenticeship in glass molds that I was able to go into plastics.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of a foundation, just stair step, literally.
Yeah, that'd be a
Yeah.
good base for it. Yeah. What about your mom? How old was she?
She was, let me think, she was 3 years younger than Dad, but she died, oh, she must have been 72 or 3 when she passed away. She was, there was several years there she was a widow. And in fact, we set a mobile home up out here behind, and she still lived out here, lived her life out here.
Okay.
And,
that's a nice arrangement.
yeah. Yeah, she was independent enough that she didn't have to worry about bothering anybody, but there was always somebody close by.
Yeah.
You know, if she needed something.
Yeah. I think they need that independence too.
Oh yeah.
But once you start depending on
Yeah.
somebody else for everything,
Yeah.
you just kind of give up. You
Right.
need to discipline yourself and
Yeah. But
keep yourself going.
she was a bit of a complainer at that point in time. Of course, I mean, she's up in years, and somebody would say, well, we're going to take you here, we're going to take you there, and then they didn't show up. Well, that kind of upset her.
Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah.
I understand that. You know, I'm that way myself even now. But yeah, she did have a little problem there occasionally on that. But
I'm trying to imagine her on a phone call with one of these telemarketers where
Oh,
it's just a
Lord.
machine that calls.
I don't think I could have stood by on that. That just wouldn't have worked for her.
How do you argue with a machine?
Yeah, right.
Especially one that tells you to have a nice day after you just told them off.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh boy.
yeah.
Now you mentioned a sister. One sister? Do you have
Yeah,
any
just
brothers?
one
or-
sister.
Okay.
She was a registered nurse,
Okay.
and she was at Noblesville, Riverview, Noblesville. She went to work there very shortly after she graduated from nurses training,
Okay.
and she worked her way up. She was for a while she was in the emergency room, or not emergency room, in the operating room,
Mm-hmm.
operating room nurse. Then she was in the ER, not ER, the recovery area, and then later on she went into the administrative where she took care of the paperwork and all that, you know, before she finally retired.
Yeah.
But
And what is her name?
Mary Louise,
Mary Louise. Okay.
yeah,
Now, did she get married or?
yeah, that's my name. That's the guy I was talking to out there is my nephew,
Oh, okay.
and his dad and my sister built that house, or had it built,
Yeah.
and which then when she passed away, then he remarried and moved to another
I
location.
see. I see.
But
And what was her married name?
Cecil,
Cecil.
his name was William
Okay.
Cecil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what was the age difference between the two of you?
But she was 3 years younger than I.
Okay.
But she had fibromyalgia, and I don't know if there was any other complications or not. What took her life was what they call an embolism, broke loose and
Yeah.
lodged in her lungs, and of course she literally suffocated at that point. But the thing was, she was with my youngest nephew, his name is Scott, and it really got to Scott for a long time, and he's pretty well recovered from that now. He's
Yeah.
very active in church work, so he's moving on.
Yeah, it's tough, especially when it's just like that.
Yeah, and it was
You don't prepare for it that
Yeah.
way.
They were coming through Pendleton, and she had a whatever they call a seizure.
Oh my.
They called the ambulance out, took her to the hospital, and after we were all there at the hospital, and they came out and told us that she hadn't made it. So, but kind of a shock.
When you were younger, did you kind of watch out for her when she was dating or anything like that?
Yes, sort of. She pretty well took care of herself. She had a mind of her own. In fact, she got in trouble with Mom and Dad several times because she kind of had a lip, a little bit of back talk on occasion. But no, she pretty well took care of her. No, she and I talked a lot.
Yeah.
And kind of looked after each other, I guess, more than one looked after the other. You know, it was a kind of a combination deal there. Worked together at it.
Kind of sounds like my kids. I mean, Jenny and John just watch out for each other,
Yeah.
and they're really close.
Yeah.
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 It's always good to see.
Yeah, we had quite a lot of experiences up there in Pennsylvania before we moved out here.
Now, how long were you in Pennsylvania before you moved here?
I graduated from high school in 1946, and I took 2 years before I finally enlisted in the Navy. I tried to find a job, and at that time it was right during the Korean situation, or right thereabouts, and I'd walk in and say, well, I'm looking for a job. How old are you? You're 18. Well, have you had service time? No. Well, I can't use you. I mean, it's that quick.
Yeah.
So I figured, well, I'll take care of that. So I enlisted in the Navy. Enlisted for 3 and wound up serving 4.
But you did that out of Washington.
Yeah, out of Pittsburgh. Actually,
okay.
Because the recruiting office was in Brockway, or Du Bois, Pennsylvania, which is 10 miles from Brockway. And I went over there and enlisted, and of course went through Pittsburgh. Then that's where all the what they call the physicals and all that kind of stuff took place.
Well, tell me a little bit about growing up in Washington. What was the town like?
Well, actually, I grew up in Brockway, but Washington was a college town. Washington Jefferson College was located there.
Okay.
And the college kids did what they do in Washington as well as they do anywhere else. They used to have the old trolley that had the overhead wire hookup.
Yeah.
And they'd sneak up behind the trolley and pull that wire loose. And of course, the trolley's dead as a doornail right there. The motorman had to get out and put the line back together. I tell you, it was.
Interviewed a guy a while back. They would put soap on the rails, and he'd get that car turned around, and head back toward town. He couldn't get going.
Couldn't get started. They had pep rallies every once in a while. Whenever they did, they just shut the theaters down in town because everybody. You just make a beeline. You go in the front door and around the front and up the back and out onto the street. Pep rallies, get the whole. I think the whole college was there taking care of that. I stayed with my grandparents. I didn't live on campus, but I got involved with a lot of that activity. So.
Yeah. So where did you actually live? You lived with your grandparents?
During the time I was in college.
Okay. What about when you were
I grew up
still a boy, just growing up?
Yeah, I still at home. I grew up at home, mom and dad with mom and dad.
Okay, and where was the home located?
That was in Brockway, Pennsylvania.
Brockway?
Yeah.
You know where in Brockway? Do you remember the street
address?
Oh,
let's see. We lived just outside of town. It was Route 219, and it was about 1 mile from the city limits. Okay. We were north of town.
Okay.
And I used to walk that regularly when I'd want to go to town. If I wanted to go, I had to walk because that's the only way I had to get there.
Yeah.
And we had a car, of course, but at that time, you just didn't depend on anybody to take you any place. I mean, you went the best conveyance possible.
Yeah, you sure did.
We'd catch a train. We'd ride a train from Brockway to Du Bois, both ways. They had a local train that go it through, and we had the schedule worked out.
Yeah.
We'd ride it over to Du Bois, go to a movie, and spend a couple hours roaming around, hop the train, and come back home.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
Sounded like a fun place to grow up.
It was. It was very interesting.
Yep.
And it was a small community. I'm used to small communities.
Yeah.
And everybody knew everybody, and we had quite an incident one time. There was a shoe shine parlor on Main Street next to the railroad. There's a railroad crossing, then you come up Main Street, up onto a bridge, and then across the bridge, across the railroad, and up a little bit further into the main part of town.
Yeah. Well,
this little shoe shine parlor was right at that top of that little rise, and we always go up. Bunch of us would go up there during our break at school. When it had lunchtime, we'd go up there and hang out for half an hour and go back to school. We were up there one day, and here came a black bear down that railroad with 2 cubs behind her.
Oh, boy.
And you talk about bunch of people were in awe. Watch that old gal come. She came mosey down across the main street of town, and on down and past the old depot and on out into the field, herding the cubs.
Huh.
That was the only time we ever saw it, just that one time. But that was quite an experience.
I reckon.
Yeah.
You didn't go up and pet the cubs
Oh,
or anything?
no. Nobody even made a move for that old gal that time.
You see these dummies in the Smokies, they'll go down there and they'll get between the cubs and the mother and take pictures. And
that is
wrong.
Not very sensible. Not very sensible.
Well, you're the first guy we've talked to that had a bear running around his
bear story. Huh?
Yeah. Probably lots of creeks and hills and
Yeah.
places to play for.
Oh yeah, yeah. We used to go out. There was a hill, short distance from where we lived. There was a bunch of old grapevines, and we'd go out there and swing on those grapevines.
Yeah.
We did that till one boy fell, and when he fell backwards. He broke his arm between the elbow and the wrist. It just looked like he had a third joint in there, you know.
Gee.
That was it. We never went back.
Huh.
Never went back. We still roamed around up in the woods
Yeah.
up in that area, but we never used the grapevines.
You're a quick learner now.
Oh yeah, one time, boy. What does they say? Once burnt, twice wary, or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have any childhood heroes when you were growing up? It could be some baseball players or someone in the community or the family that you kind of looked up to.
Not really. Not really. I did. I had one high school teacher. I never will forget that guy. His name was, we call him Pop Schaefer.
Yeah.
He was a chemistry teacher, chemistry and biology and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he had a laboratory. And he was one of those guys that when he told you to sit down and be quiet, you best listen, because he meant exactly what he said.
Yeah.
But he was one of the ones that would, if you had a problem, he's the guy that you could talk to.
Yeah.
He was the one you could go to, and he would help you try to get straightened out, or at least give you direction anyway. But he used to line the class up. He had an old static machine. He'd line the class all up and leave a gap between the last two people on the line.
Yeah.
Then he'd crank that old static machine up, and he'd tell the last two on the hand, now join hands. Zap. Spark and jump about 3 or 4 inches, blue as it could be. Got everybody got jolted,
Those are the fun teachers.
Yeah.
They teach you through games and things like that.
Right. But
Interesting, fun things.
He taught you, when you walked into his classroom, you just almost automatically respected him.
Right.
That was, he expected your respect.
Yeah.
He earned it, and he kept it.
Yeah.
It was that kind of an individual. And man, he was sharp. He knew his stuff.
Yeah.
He always called on me to be the, when we had these class plays, I had to ring the doorbells and break the glass and all that kind of stuff. The sound effects man. He always put me to work at that. So. I don't know whether he trusted me or what, but I was always the one who got it.
And you see a chemistry teacher getting up there on the first day and says, I'm not going to spank you, but I can blow you up, so behave.
Yeah.
They got some options that other teachers don't.
You got it. Yeah.
Oh, boy. Did you go to church when you were young?
Yeah, I went as a youngster. Mom and Dad weren't too active in the church at that time, but the class that I went through high school with, there was a group of us that all went to the same church, and they formed a youth choir, and I was one of the group. And as a result of that, I was pretty active in the church at that point. Okay. And I stayed with that till I got in the service. I kind of got away from it during the time I was in the service, but after I got out of service, then I kind of decided that was a good way to, meet people. Let's go back to the church area, and I've been active ever since.
Yeah, I know you were active now. I didn't know how far back that went.
Yeah, that's pretty much. Well, let me relate something. My mom told me this story, and I don't. Of course, I don't remember it, but we used to travel by train a lot because it was the easiest available transportation. And the old cars had seats that you didn't turn the car around, you just shifted the seats.
Right.
They flip back and forth. Mom was telling me that there was a nun on a trip that she had taken. It was when I was a baby, and this nun said, my mom said that she looked up there several times, and she said that nun was just enwrapped with me for some reason or other. And she asked Mom, she said, do you mind if I pray for that child? Mom said, you go right ahead, that's fine. I'll be happy if you do. Yeah. Well, now whether that was a turning point in my life, I don't know, it's a possibility. But whatever that old gal prayed, that's she did me a favor. I guess
it kind of makes you wonder what she was seeing or thinking, or if it was just a general thing or something specific that was.
But Mom never elaborated on it. She just said the gal asked, she said, do you mind if I pray for that child? Mom said, you go right ahead. And she did, so.
Didn't hurt you a bit, did it?
Apparently not.
So where'd you go to school?
Brockway Snyder High School, Brockway,
Okay.
Pennsylvania.
What about grade school? Was
Both.
it
I went through the whole. It was
12 grades in one school?
well, at one time it was, but then they, after a short time after I started, they built another elementary school. So they had an elementary and high school
Okay.
at that time, and it was right on the main street. And yeah, I went to the elementary there, Brockway. They call it Brockway Snyder. It was a school corporation,
Right.
and in later years I rode the school bus back and forth. But
Yeah. Well, you mentioned a couple teachers already. Any others that kind of stand out to you?
yeah, there was two. The gal that used to teach down here. Hang on a minute. Lucille Rocky. Lucille Rocky. She was one of my teachers when I was nearly out of high school.
Huh.
There was another one, Carolyn Longwell, was a math teacher. And Carolyn would take the time to take the kids home if they were having trouble in her class, algebra particularly. She would take them to her home and spend some time with them on several occasions in order to get them back on the right track.
Wow.
She was one excellent teacher.
Wow.
She wasn't the prettiest one in the world, but she was the personality, you just didn't see that's all you saw was the personality, really. And boy, she was a good one.
That's the one that counts.
Oh yeah. She and Pop Schaefer, I guess, was two that I remember the most.
Yeah.
And,
Were you involved in any kind of sports in school, or?
no, I was in band. I played snare drum in band,
Okay.
but for a year or two, and I was in several clubs. They had a photography club. We go out and take pictures of a bunch of kids and stuff, activities.
Yeah.
And I was one of the, I guess you call it an editor of a paper.
Yeah.
I might relate to you, when I went back to Pennsylvania for my 50th reunion, the gal who was they started the yearbook the year that I was involved with it, and the gal that started it, the teacher that was responsible,
Yeah.
had a get together with her staff before our evening meeting with the whole
Right.
class. Just the staff of the yearbook met, and we spent in fact they run us out because we were got to reminiscing and ran out of time. So they said, you guys are going to have to leave. But it was great. I didn't want to come back. I wanted to stay a while longer, but you know how that goes.
Yeah.
Time and tide waits for no man.
Those are fun activities. My brother was involved in both the yearbook and the
Yeah,
newspaper at Madison Heights, and
yeah.
he always seemed to enjoy that.
That was the first year that they ever published the yearbook. Was that year? It was called the Dawn, D-A-W-N,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
1946.
What was the mascot for the school?
They called him the Rover.
The Rover. Huh?
Yeah, he was the dog. He looked like I guess a chow would probably be the closest
Yeah.
I could describe. That build of a dog, but it had a little bit of a long snout, black.
Yeah.
Brockway Rovers is what they called. Red and black was the colors.
So, were they as tough as what their mascot sounds, or?
Not always. Not always.
They weren't miling, huh?
No. They played some pretty good games, but you wouldn't believe the difference between what sports were then and what they are now.
Yeah.
I mean, sports at that time was secondary, where right now it seems to be the primary function.
Yeah. That's true.
Everything else takes second place to it.
Yeah. What was the big team sport at Brockway?
Really, they didn't have at that point in time, there was nothing that really, I mean, we had basketball, we had football.
Yeah.
That was basically, I think they had a baseball team, but other than that was it. I mean, as far as the sports were concerned, no swimming or anything like that.
Yeah.
Of course,
The creek was too high for swimming.
You got it. The only place they had a place where there was a big old hollowed out place where they could, dive off the bank. That was the only, the old swimming hole.
Well, that brings a point. Did they do any baptisms in the creek, or were there any outdoor baptisms?
I don't
around there?
recall any. At that point, I don't. They did a lot of by sprinkling. Now, see, that was the the Methodist Episcopal Church.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was way long before the United Methodist,
Yeah.
came together. But it was the Methodist Episcopal.
Yeah.
It was right on the main street of town. Yeah. And the thing, I guess, that helped encourage a lot of the kids that I was going to school with is the pastor that was there had 2 daughters, and both of them were in high school. And I guess that was a drawing card for the rest of the crew. That brought some of the boys in, and that brought some of the other girls in, and that brought some more boys in. So at one time, I guess we had probably, I expect we had 16 or 18 in that choir.
That always seems to be the big draw in,
yeah,
in the youth group.
That's social activities.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about Brockway itself? I mean, was there anything there in Brockway, businesses, movie theaters?
Well, the glass
anything?
plant.
And the glass plant.
Thing.
Yeah.
And, no, as far as
like stores.
social activity, they had several stores on the main street. There was, I think, 2 or 3 grocery stores. I know there was a big drugstore and a jewelry shop, and that shoe shine parlor where I was talking about. I think there was a clothing store there too. But it was about like Lapel when I first came out here.
Yeah.
The limitations on all the activities and everything. But
I kind of miss the small towns that had stores.
Yeah.
Like the heyday of Willow Branch or some place like that, and you see them now, and they look. There's just nothing there. And
right. Well, see, that's what happened to Pendleton.
Yeah.
I mean, you got nothing but it's like little Nashville.
Yeah.
That's about it right now. Of course, they got that big store out on the other side of town, but this is a bedroom community, Lapel, really.
Sure.
And we got 1 restaurant that's open all the time, or that is long during the day, evening. We got one that's open until about 2 o'clock most of the week, except Wednesday. They're open of an evening.
Yeah.
And that's it. And of course, we got Pizza King down there. I mean,
sure.
It's the town's growing a little bit, but
It is. It's,
but, got a long way to go.
you want to grow, but not too much.
Right. Well, that's the thing that they're haggling mostly with right now is to controlled growth.
Right.
In other words, they don't want just a explosion. They want to control it as it goes. And there's a move right now to try to voluntarily annex this whole area here, clear on down to, I think, clear to 38. I'm not sure exactly where they want to stop, but I think that's the shot right now. So it's all voluntary though, because they can't force it. See, Noblesville coming this way, and Pendleton's coming, Anderson's coming.
Yeah.
Fortville and Indianapolis is coming. We're just being squeezed.
Yeah. You were awfully young when the Great Depression kicked in. Do you remember much about it?
No, the only thing I remember is Dad apparently was fortunate enough to be working for the glass industry.
Huh.
And at that time, the glass industry was one of the only ones that was doing anything at all.
Because people had to can a lot of food to get by.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he missed very little work on account of the Depression.
Wow.
But he said there was a lot of places around close to us that did, But I don't remember too much about that, except the only thing I do remember about it was that you didn't waste anything.
Right.
And my grandmother was one of the biggest as far as saving things. I mean, you just didn't throw anything away in front of her.
Yeah.
And my mom was somewhat the same. And of course, Dad said, I don't care what you put on your plate, but you eat every bit of it before you get up from the table.
That's right.
And that was the rule,
Yeah, can't afford to waste it.
And to this day, I still do that.
Really?
When I sat a plate down in front of me, I clean that sucker up.
Yeah.
Catch tell.
I do too, but there's certain things I won't put on that plate.
Yeah, I hear you. There's very little that I don't put on it. That's
Yeah. In school, did you have certain subjects that you were good in that you preferred?
Yeah, I liked math.
Okay.
I enjoyed math and industrial arts. I enjoyed the drawing and making stuff. We had a little machine shop, or not a machine shop, but a woodworking shop. And a guy by the name of Wright was a teacher.
Yeah.
That's all I can remember about him. Huh?
No, he's just giving me a signal on time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's about all I can remember about that part of it.
Yeah.
I wasn't involved too much at school. I was more at home, around home quite a lot. But Dad had a small garden, and it was partly and a small.
Yeah.
We had about half a dozen chickens and a dog, and that was it. And of course, we lived out on the edge of town. And I do remember one thing. When we first moved there, we lived right next to the glass plant.
Right.
And in I think it was 36, they had quite a flood in that area. And the house we lived in had flagstone wall in the basement, except for the pillars,
Yeah.
support pillars
Yeah.
in the corner. And we stayed in that house until the flagstone wall gave way.
Huh.
And you hear that rumble.
Yeah.
Dad opened the door and looked, and the water was about that far from below the door.
Ooh.
He says, "Time to get out."
Time to go.
So a guy came, and one of his buddies came and carried me, and then he came back, got my sister,
Yeah.
and carried us over to the railroad track. And we left and sat, I don't remember how long it was, we were out of the house. And
Floods and fires. I don't want either one.
you got it. And we had a furnace in the basement. Of course, it put the furnace out,
Yeah.
ruined the furnace, and it ruined everything was in the basement. So it's quite a time.
Yeah, sure would be.
Yeah.
Did you have very many hobos stop around? You're close to the railroad track.
Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. But we did have a wreck one time. A guy went to cross the crossing that we lived on a street that's right off of a main highway.
Yeah.
And he was in a pickup truck and went to cross the crossing, and the rear axle broke.
Oh boy.
And of course that locked up, right on the crossing. And the train, as it came around, it was on a sweeping curve, and that headlight didn't pick up that truck until it was right on top of it.
Mm.
They hit that thing, and they had two carloads of sheep. They had the cattle cars, with the
Yeah.
wooden frames on the side. 2 of those full of sheep, and the rest of them, there were several coal cars behind that. But the people formed a human chain, and several of them went out, was rounding up the sheep, bringing those sheep back in, putting them in that circle of people until they could get somebody, somebody to haul them away.
Yeah. Did the train derail?
Oh yeah.
Okay, it popped
yeah.
up. All right.
It tore that truck and the engine. It plowed up about probably 75, 80 feet of track
Boy.
where the engine dropped off, gouged it out.
Anybody get hurt in the accident or?
No, the guy got out of the truck, was trying to flag the train down, and
Oh boy.
it never did tip the locomotive over,
Yeah.
but it sure tore up those cars.
Mm.
Dumped coal all over the place.
Well, I bet.
We didn't buy any coal that winter. Only buy a wheelbarrow load, Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, fortunately, nobody got hurt.
Nobody got hurt. No. But it sure did tear up that track. I
Oh
tell you.
boy.
Do you know, living there by that track, there were several trains that went through, both freight and passenger. And if those trains were late, I would wake up
Huh. No
until
kidding,
that
huh?
train went by, and as soon as that train went by, I dropped right back to sleep.
Well, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah. But it's amazing. Once you get used to it, it's like a routine. They came through at the same time every night,
Yeah.
and I'd wake up until I heard that whistle. Sometimes I'd be asleep before I hit the crossing there.
You graduated in 46. So where were you when you heard about Pearl Harbor?
Oh my, December 7th, 1941. Oh, my. I don't really recall,
Yeah.
to be honest with
Do
you.
you know how you heard about it, or?
Well, probably through the radio, because we just listened to the radio most of the time. We didn't
Yeah.
have any television,
Yeah.
or word of mouth maybe. Of course, once that happened, I mean, it just it spread like wildfire. Everybody heard about it shortly.
Yeah, you were in that group. You didn't know that it was going to end in 1945.
No,
So you could very well have gotten involved in it. So it had to sort of been in the back of your mind all through high school.
oh yeah,
And-
yeah. There was we had, in fact, we had one young lad that was in my senior class, my graduating class, joined the Army and was killed before we graduated. In fact, we had a memorial when we had our 50th reunion.
Yeah.
They had a memorial service for him at that point.
Do you remember his name?
Joe Salvetto, Salvetto. Said Joe. Yeah. He's a little round man. He was about 4'8", 5 foot tall, and I expect he weighed probably 140 pounds.
Yeah.
Pretty good sized boy.
Yeah.
He was one of the managers on the football and basketball. You know, he was active in the sporting area. But he did leave high school to go join the Army.
Do you know where he was when he was killed?
I don't remember any particulars about it. The only thing I do know that he was killed before we graduated.
Wow. It had to be a shock.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So at the time, were you thinking, well, as soon as I graduate, they're going to draft me?
Not really.
You given any thought to that?
Not really.
Yeah.
It was kind of in limbo at that point. See, it was 46, and the war was over. You know, the World War II was over.
Right.
And, of course, at that point, they were doing all the negotiating with the Koreans over there at that time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of in limbo, but there was a lot of guys were going, you know, because of the selective service system. You know, a lot of guys were coming out of high school and turn 18, you sign up, and you're gone.
Yeah.
But,
were you surprised that it went on as long as it did, World War II?
I really didn't I don't think I ever gave it too much thought, to be honest with you about it. I mean, we kind of have, you know, once you got into that, what do you call the rhythm, literally, you had the food stamps and gasoline rationing and nylons rationing and picking up aluminum and stuff, you know, just kind of, you know, that was the growing up. That was literally the, I was in the scout troop, and we were, of course, they had the, what do you call the alerts, you know, they were always running an aircraft warning alert.
Yeah.
And they'd make sure everybody had all their lights out. I happened to be one of the messengers. I was one of the scout troop, you know, out on my bicycle with a light with a little slit in it. I do remember that part.
You must have done a good job, because I don't recall Brockway ever getting bombed during the war.
They never did get hit.
So he did all right.
We must have. Of course, we were nestled down in the hollow there.
May not have been a prime target anyway.
I don't think it was, really. They have glass bottles, about the only thing we were making. Oh dear.
Oh boy.
It was an interesting time, though.
Yeah, I kind of wondered if you gotten involved in some of the drives to scrap drives.
Yeah, there was always somebody gathering up aluminum, you know.
Yeah.
And in fact, that one summer I spent some time with my grandmother. We gathered up a couple of little aluminum cups, you know, drinking cups.
Yeah.
And I took them down to the little local grocery store and got an ice cream cone as a result of it. But,
well, that's a good deal.
Yeah, I can remember that. The fact is, I was on my way back from the store to the house, and I fell on a driveway. And they had what they call red dog. It was the slag that was burnt after they hauled it out of the mines. You know, just let it pile up and smolder.
Yeah.
And then they'd use it for driveways and roadways and stuff. And I still got the scar on my elbow, right there where it popped that dude open.
Wow.
But I didn't lose my ice cream. Yeah, I didn't lose my ice cream. That was something.
Good combat training right there.
Yeah. Of course, at that point in time, I was a lot more agile than I am right now, I can tell you.
Did you buy any war bonds or stamps or anything?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was always, you know, in school you'd save your pennies and go buy some stamps and so on. Of course, turn them in later on, you know. But, buy a bond. Buy a bond.
Yeah. I remember Dad being so proud of when he had enough stamps he could buy a bond. Well, that was World War I. So.
Yeah.
Wow. Were you able to keep track of what was going on? I mean, Movie Tone News or something?
I guess when we went to the movies on most of the times on Saturdays. They had the serial, you know, and then of course they'd always have the news, movie tone news, you know, Lowell Thomas and who was the other guy? There was two of them that kind of played back and forth. At
Gabriel Heater, but
yeah, well, he was one of them.
He was one. Yeah.
What was the guy that?
Walter Winchell.
No, there was a dark-haired guy that smoked a lot.
Edward R. Murrow.
Edward R. Murrow.
Yeah, yeah.
I remember listening to him.
Yeah.
On occasion.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's basically all. At that point, of course, not being involved with a military family, there really wasn't, there wasn't too much of a, what do I call it? It wasn't brought to my attention as much that way.
Yeah.
But and of course I did. I mean, I had some relatives that were in the Army and Navy. I had a cousin that was killed over in Germany. That he was one of those that he was a glider pilot.
Oh, really?
And he was one of the glider pilots when they had when they did that invasion with
yeah.
To try to drop in behind the German lines.
Oh,
and
okay.
A lot of them,
behind the Rhine.
Yeah, a lot of them were killed in that operation.
Yeah.
But of course, those gliders were nothing but plywood, and if you didn't get the, I don't know. I never did learn any of the particulars, about it. My aunt, I guess, got a letter from a lady there in Germany that kind of brought her up to date with what had taken place.
Well, there's a gentleman over in Edgewood who was a glider pilot, and that was one of the operations he was involved in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dick Eastman was his name.
Okay.
Yep, just a young man. He was at that time. He was probably not much more than 19 or 20.
Well, I have to ask Dick Mauger if Dick Mauger's the name of the guy. I have to ask him. He might have known him.
Could possibly.
Yeah, interesting.
Might have trained together.
They very, very easily could have.
Yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned some other relatives that were in service.
Yeah, my would be my dad's sister and her husband had 3 boys, and all 3 of them were in the service.
Okay.
One was in the Navy, one was in the Army, and one was in the Air Force. So they pretty well
Covered it.
Spread it all. They covered it all the way.
Now, there you should have joined the Marines to even it out now.
I don't think so. I appreciate the Marine Corps, but I don't think I would have. I don't know. I don't think I'd have been to the what do you call the temperament for the Marine Corps.
Were there very many people from Brockway who wound up going into service? Small town, it could be.
I don't really recall, to be honest with you about it. Because, see, this was 2 years. I was 2 years after I graduated before I went in. I went in October of 48.
Yeah.
So that would have been almost 2 full years after I graduated from high school.
Yeah.
And I think there were some that did.
Yeah.
But I don't recall any, right offhand. I don't remember. Of course, when I left there and when I went into the Navy, I wasn't home maybe 2 or 3 times in all that, and I would use up a 30-day leave, and then that would be it for the year.
Yeah.
So actually, boot camp leave and the leave before we sailed for the Persian Gulf, there was 2 30-day leaves that I know of that I was home. But of course, when I got home, I wasn't too interested in the guys that were in the service,
Yeah.
There was a young lady there that I was quite friendly with, and I made a few dates with her. That was quite an experience.
Graduated high school, you knocked around for a couple of
2 years.
2 years, just couldn't quite run into a decent job. Of course, a lot of guys were coming back from World War II at that time.
Yeah.
So it would have been really hard for you to get in.
Right.
Hadn't really thought about that, but then, so you decided to join the Navy, or?
Yeah, I just decided that since I'm going to have to if I'm going to find a job, I'm going to have to get some time in service.
Okay.
So I thought, the more I thought about it, I thought, well, I kind of liked the Navy situation. I felt like, well, I didn't want to lay in a foxhole, and I understand that has to be done. That's a dirty job, and somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
But that was one of the motivations that I had when I joined the Navy. It was when we go out, we take everything with us, You
Yeah.
take your bunk and your foods, your clothing, your practically everything you own, and you go. It all goes with you. And of course, if it goes down, chances are you're going to go down with it. But there was a standing joke. The nearest land's 5 miles away, straight down.
Yeah.
That was the comment.
Never heard it put that way, but you're right. That's a good.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go to any service, there's always some kind of a trade-off there. I mean, I've never heard of an infantryman that was eaten by a shark.
Yeah. Right.
So-
Right. Yeah.
But it sleeps a lot better in a bunk.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So you went to Pittsburgh and did your physical there.
Yeah.
And enlisted. Then where'd you go from there?
Well, actually, there's one little incident I want to comment to you. There
Sure.
was probably 200 of us in a room, and the guy was standing up on a platform. Of course, he was in full dress uniform, Navy, the chief petty officer, and he was explaining all the particulars right at that point. He said, "Now, gentlemen," he said, "this is the point where you have to make a decision." He said, "Once you take this oath, you belong to us. If anybody's going to leave, now's the time to get out, because if once you take the oath, that option is gone." And I still remember, I expect if there'd been one guy who had made a break for the door, the whole cotton-picking bunch of us would have gone. Yeah, I do remember that well. But I went from there to Great Lakes Naval Training Station up at Great Lakes, what is it, Illinois?
Yeah, Chicago. Yeah.
Yeah, just outside of Chicago.
North Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what'd you think of boot camp?
Well, I've been through a lot of things I would enjoy a lot more than I did that. Especially standing out there. It was in October when I went in November, that wind come off of that lake, man, I'm telling you, it had ice in its teeth. And here we were standing out there on that grinder at parade rest while they read the Articles of War. Now, that was a requirement. That had to be done.
Yeah.
So there we were. Of course, we all had our pea coats on and had those watch caps, the blue knit caps, but that was still mighty cold.
Do you remember a word the guy said?
Not really. Not really.
Not
really.
real conducive for memorization.
No. Standing there at parade rest with that weapon at your side, but
Yeah.
that just wasn't too good for the memory.
So what about boot camp itself? What were some of the things you did?
Well, it was one of those things where you got used to, you hurry up and stand in line. Hurry up and stand in line. You stood in line to go to chow. You stood in line to get in the shower. You stood in line to get your paycheck. You stood in line for this and that and the other thing. When you got your physical shots and all that stuff, you stood in line. Of course, that was part of the deal, I guess. You can't be individual. You can't be an individual. You have to be a part of the team. But we had a two-floor dormitory that was built. They were built like an H, with a connecting link in between.
Right.
That's where all the head was, the showers and all that. That was in between the two dormitory areas. We did have one guy in there that was a little reluctant to shower. I don't know whether he was embarrassed or just what it was all about, but he just didn't like the idea of going in the shower with a bunch of guys.
Yeah.
Well, it got to the point where we didn't have a whole lot of choice. We called one of the chief petty officer, and he said, I'll give you a suggestion, but he said, I didn't tell you to do this. He said, this is just an idea. He said, just give him a GI shower. Said, when you get him in there, take that Kai brush and give him a going over. One he'll remember. He said, the next time it comes time for shower, he'll be one of the first in there. So that's exactly what happened. He'd take his socks off, and you could already stay in the same dormitory. Boy, I tell you, it was.
Oh, gee.
It was rough. But it worked. I mean, it took care of the situation. But they were strict. I mean, they said, when they said jump, you jumped. You didn't ask how high or which direction. You just moved.
Yeah.
But, and they told you when lights was out, buddy. That's quiet time. That's when everything shuts down. And they meant exactly what they said. And we found out the hard way a couple times, once, at least once.
Once, only
Yeah,
once.
only once. There was a small grinder between the dorms, and I don't know, there were several of the guys got to cutting up or doing something, and of course the OD came through, and it was supposed to be quiet, and it wasn't. He said, "Okay, guys." He flipped the lights on. He said, "Sea bags over your head, out on the grinder." We went out and run around that grinder, about 10 trips around the grinder. He said, "Do you think you can go in and go to sleep now?" Everybody said, "Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir." Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't take very much carrying that thing over your head.
Yeah, and you talk about all your belongings. You had everything, including your shoes.
Oh,
in
yeah,
that
yeah.
duffel bag. I mean, it was full. It was full. Of course, we had to run our pea coats on because it was cold. You know, it was still in November and October, November, December.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one I remember well.
Yeah, I think they closed Great Lakes down during the summer because it's not cold enough.
Oh, I believe that's the case. But,
So from Great Lakes, where'd you go?
from the Great Lakes, I had 30-day leave, and then I went back and reported aboard ship in Brooklyn Navy Yard.
Okay.
That was, let me think. Oh, I spent about a month in the Naval Hospital. I had developed a lung abscess, and I had to do that, what they call inhalation therapy with the.
Yeah.
At that time, it was penicillin, I think. And every so many times a day, you know, every so many hours, I had to take that little puffer and sit and inhale that. But over a period of about a month, I was back to in line, you know. So I'd say it would see October, November, 12 weeks would be 3 months. January, February. And then a 30-day leave. It was probably February, March. I'd say late March, early April when I went aboard ship. And I picked it up there in dry dock at Brooklyn Navy Yard.
So it would have been April of 48 or 49?
It'd be 49 because it would be the first,
49.
April 49 because I went in 48,
All right, yeah.
October 48.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, it's
So
USS Maury, AGC, and wait a minute, Auxiliary Geographic Survey, AGS-16.
What's the name of it?
USS Maury, M-A-U-R-Y.
Okay.
AGS-16,
Okay.
Auxiliary Geographic Survey.
Huh. So,
Yeah.
what, like oceanographic survey ship or what? What's
Well,
what kind of ship is
the
it?
way the situation was, see, they'd been over to the Persian Gulf before. What they were doing is remapping the area, the water,
Okay.
underwater. In other words, making navigational charts.
Oh,
Because, you know, that sand has a tendency with the water shifting and swishing
Sure.
around, it'll move the sandbars.
yeah.
And some of those big old tankers were going in there and running aground. And, well, if you've ever seen the front of one of those, what's underwater, it looks like a ball, literally, with a sharp edge comes down to it,
Yeah.
you know, the bow point, and then it widens out into this
Uh-huh.
big ball. Well, that ball, if you happen to hit that sand, of course, it pushes the sand out of the way. But when it does that, it makes a suction.
Ah.
And, boy, once you get it in there, it's like sticking a car in a rut, buddy.
Yeah.
You can sit there and pump all day, and you're not going to move it.
Yeah.
You may have to wait for high tide or wait for the tide to change. That may change the stress points and so
Right.
on. But they were wanting to clear that. In other words, they were wanting the channels to get into these, like Ras Tanura was the loading area where they loaded the
Yeah.
big tankers. They had a big long pier run out into the water, and then of course they had big old hoses up on that thing where they'd pump the oil out into the tankers while they were sitting there on the at the pier.
Yeah.
But they wanted the navigational charts made so they could get in and out without running aground and having all that problem. Of course, you know, lost time is lost money with that deal.
Oh, you betcha. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Lots of lost money.
Yeah. Yeah, I was at Bahrain Island. I was Ras Tanura. Kuwait had, not Kuwait, I can't think of the capital,
yeah.
Saudi Arabia right now.
Oh,
Anyway, they had an air base there.
yeah.
and then that's where we'd go get our mail. We had a helicopter on board ship, and they'd take that helicopter and fly over and pick up the mail and parts, run a shuttle run, literally. And we used that until they went to leave the airport one day, and they somehow or other, that's sliding down there. That one of the commercial aircraft came in over top of it, and it did a belly up right there in the middle of the field.
Oh boy.
So it looked like a broken grasshopper when we got it back aboard ship. They had to
Wow.
haul it out with a barge.
Huh. Well, it must have been a pretty good sized ship then.
Well, it was a. You remember the Kaiser, what they call the Liberty ship?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it was. A converted Liberty ship is what
Okay.
it was.
Okay. Yeah.
And what they did was it had several cargo holds, but we had small boats that we had to run, close inshore. We had two. Let me think a second. It was two LCVP, which would be vehicle personnel, and we had two LCPRs, which is personnel ramp. It just had a narrow walkway.
Right.
The VP had the wide, big ramp that dropped down. The big steel.
Like a Higgins boat? Or?
Yeah,
Okay.
similar to that. And then we had two small ones that were like cruisers. They had closed the deck in and put a what do you call a canopy on them, literally.
Yeah.
That one of those was the captain's boat.
Okay.
And then we had 4 Echo sound boats, 2 40-footers and 2 50-footers, and they all of them had transducers that set underneath the boat, with a phenometer setting up on top, and they'd run those echoes, depth echo sounding, and record it. And of course, then we had to put up 3 radar beacons. They used them like a radio antenna base, with the beacon sitting on top of it. They had to locate them by the stars and so on to get them in the exact location. Then we'd run a grid pattern, just back and forth,
Huh.
and every so often they take an echo sounding, and then that way they could record the depth and all those. Then it would make the charts. Before they did that, that was clear back in the 1800s, like. I don't know what year exactly, but they used what they call a lead line. I don't know whether you're familiar with that or not.
Yeah.
Had a monkey, they called a monkey fist. It was a chunk of lead with woven line around it, and then there was every 6 foot there was a colored ribbon. And when whatever you've heard by the deep 6,
Yeah.
that's what they were talking about. When
Okay.
that drops down and when that line straightens out,
Yeah.
that wherever the water is on that line, that's the depth of the water.
Huh.
And that's the way they recorded it in the 1800s. But of course, they didn't have all the fancy electronic equipment that we had at that time. But that's the kind of charts that they were using. That's the reason they were running some of those big old dudes aground. They were going in there with them.
Yeah.
So, but they had a compound over there. See, now, in Arabia, alcoholic beverages are an absolute no-no. No matter, that's out of the question.
Yeah.
So what they would do, they built a compound, and that compound was a little piece of the United States. It was like a state was picked up and set over there.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we can haul it in and haul it out, but you can't drink it between.
Oh, really?
Of course, you're not supposed to drink aboard ship either, but
Yeah.
it was they would we'd go over there once in a while and have an evening, kind of
Yeah.
an R&R, and go in there and listen to the jukebox and maybe drink some beer or whatever. I never did get involved with it too much. I enjoyed my beer occasionally, but
Yeah.
as far as the hard stuff's concerned, I never did care. I did a couple times, and I found out that just doesn't sit too good,
No.
especially when you're out there going this way. That just doesn't work.
Well, okay. Now you went to Brooklyn, and from Brooklyn, how long was it before you went over to the Gulf?
Okay, we left the States in about I think it was late September. We left the States. We pulled out of New York late September, crossed the Atlantic, through the Mediterranean, down through the Red Sea, the Suez Canal, and around
Okay.
the Arabian Peninsula,
Okay.
and then back up into the Persian Gulf.
Yeah.
That was the route that we followed. We stopped at Gibraltar and took on fuel. We were there for probably, 8, 10, or 12 hours, something like that. I don't know the exact time, but long enough to fuel up,
Yeah.
And there was a little bit of R&R there when we got a chance to go ashore and buy some souvenirs and look around. And
What about the trip over? Was it pretty calm or
the trip over wasn't too
a little
bad.
choppy?
It was fairly smooth sailing.
Yeah.
Some of the couple that first trip back wasn't all that smooth.
Oh.
We had two what they call seagoing tugboats with us. There was like a fleet, if you will, a small fleet, and the small tugboats were set up with the same setup as we were, with the transducer and all the speedometers and all that kind of stuff. But they were working in close to the shore, in closer than the big ship.
Okay.
Well, then the small boats picked it up there, see, and went on in to where you almost go in, where you almost run them aground. Now, there's a little story involved with that. You realize now that these small boats, the 40-footers and 50-footers, were self-contained. I mean, they had an engine room, they had a little kitchen, and they had the compass, and the radio and the pesometer and all that on board, and a crew of 7. Well, now, if you're going to be away from a ship for 7 days, you're going to have some place to relieve yourself.
Yeah.
So what they did, they put 2 clamps on the stern of that boat, steel clamps with pins, and they had what looked like a child's potty chair, only oversized. Stuck those pins in there and put that potty chair and hung that thing over the stern. And that was it, man. I mean, you're out there in front of God and everybody, But once a week we'd come back and bring all our dirty laundry and go in, and of course we'd wash up, but we had this like lye soap. It was a salt water soap type thing, and we'd use that to clean up while we're out there. But we'd go back to the ship then for probably 4, 5, 6 hours, restock our kitchen, refuel, make sure we had plenty of fuel, and go in, take our showers, and put our dirty clothes in the laundry and bring our clean clothes out of there and put them back aboard the boat and haul out of there again. So it was quite an interesting.
Going over, were you on the Maury or were you?
Yeah, I was on the Maury. See, the Maury was what they call the mothership.
Right.
All these boats. Now this is something that you might think about. This is a converted freighter.
Yeah.
That they changed over. And on the second weather deck, now this is up above the main weather deck, they had racks built up there, and they had 2 of those 40-foot boats one on each side, plus the 4 all those LCVPs and all them. There was a sound boat and a landing craft and a landing craft and a landing craft on each side.
Okay.
And then the 2 50-footers were up on the bow of the ship. They were up on the forward well deck, what I call the well deck, the big open deck on the front. Yeah. Plus they had a big reefer setting up there, refrigerator, which they had welded clamps on everything to hold it down.
Right.
But this thing's top heavy. I mean, it's
it's
like one of them little guys with the lead bottom,
Yeah.
Okay, going over, like I said, it wasn't bad. It was you had that slow, easy roll, which is not too bad. You can put up with that. Once you get used to it, it's not, you don't even notice it.
Yeah.
But boy, coming back, we hit it. There was 2 hurricanes, one north and one south of us.
Oh no!
And we went in between the 2 of them. Now it was 16 feet from where they paint the water line on the bow. From there to the point of the bow was 16 feet, and I stood in the galley, which is at the back end of that, with that solid bulkhead across through there, with those great big old Coke bottom glass inserts in them.
Yeah.
I stood behind one of those and watched solid blue water come over that bow. This way. And when they do that, it was put up on. Here's your crest of your hill,
Yeah.
And the screws would come out of the water. Shake the living daylights out of that thing. And we had coming back about halfway back. They have what they call a bilge keel. Your ship is set. The bulkheads are are straight up and down until you get, and it's like a U
Right.
with rounded edges. Okay, this bilge keel runs all the length of the ship on that roll where that rounded edge is there, and the object of that is when you start to roll, it's like a brake, it keeps it from going over real fast.
Yeah.
Well, one of those things broke loose.
Ooh.
Part of it you back on about half or a fourth of the way back.
Yeah.
And every time that ship would roll, they go against the side of the ship, And man, it just echoed through that steel ship. It was awfully hard to sleep.
I bet you're glad. You're probably wondering about whether or not you should have gone into the infantry at that point.
Yeah, it was questionable. But there was a couple times it leaned over pretty heavy, and I don't know the exact angle of the roll, but
Yeah.
it put my heart right up in my throat. I tell you, because I thought sure as the world it was going. It's one of those that when it goes over, it kind of hangs there. And it just hangs there, you keep saying, come on.
Come on.
And it seemed like an eternity. And then finally she'll roll back the other way, but boy.
Yeah. I'll
Man,
bet.
It was good experience, but we had, they called them Onan generators. They were little portable electric gasoline engine generators
Yeah.
that kept the radar beacons working. And somehow or other, when sometimes they'd take them, bring them back to the ship for routine maintenance, just swap one out. Well, when in the process of swapping, they dropped it, and down she went.
Ooh.
So they decided that the only way to get it back was to send a diver down. I mean, I'm talking about a full diver. Now he's got the big
Yeah.
bell, and all. Then the boots, the leather, the weighted boots and all. So what do they do but assign me the generator to keep an air pump, a gasoline-driven air pump,
Yeah.
to keep the air going while he's down. It's my responsibility to make sure that engine keeps firing and going, so he's got air down there when he's working down there.
Yeah.
And that'll put your heart in your throat too, believe me. That was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I bet it would. I mean, that thing shuts down. He's not going to
He's
float
done.
to the surface.
Yeah, he's done. Well, now he can shut his air valves off
Yeah.
and pop to the surface, but if he does that, then he's going to be having the bends.
Right.
'Cause, that just wouldn't work.
I didn't know he had that option.
Yeah, they can do that. They can shut those air valves, and that it acts like a cork. It does jettison some of their weights, I guess, and pop to the surface. But boy, you stand an awful chance there. They're having that, and those bends, I guess, are horrible.
Yeah.
I've heard it described, but I don't. I've never experienced it. But that was just, to sit back there, and I'm right there by that air compressor. If that thing belched, I would, I was right now, I'm waiting for something else to go wrong.
Yeah.
And finally, we got him back up on board the boat. And they had one of those with the vehicle, the big wide ramp, and he just walked out on the end of that ramp and just stepped off of that ramp into the ocean.
Huh. Wow.
Jeez.
So what was your normal station on board the ship?
Anything to do with engines, the boat, keep the boat. We had the rear cargo hold was like a machine shop, a repair shop.
Okay.
We had a big cabinet back in the corner with a lot of parts and stuff, bins that, and we'd take, they were diesel engines, and we worked on the injectors, clean them, rebuild them.
Yeah.
In fact, we rebuilt several engines while we were over there. Complete overhaul, bearings and all.
So it's more engine maintenance than an engine room type
Yes,
work. Okay.
in that area.
All right.
But see, now it kind of alternated between that and boat duty. For example, if you had an aircraft out when the helicopter would go ashore, we always had a crash boat standing by, right off the stern of the ship.
Okay.
And when he got up and got going, that boat was in the water. Well, you had to put that boat in the water before he started, and we stayed with it until he brought it out.
Okay.
So that was an assignment occasionally. And then, it just running, and when we had these liberty parties to go into that compound, Okay, then you have to have a boat crew. You know, you have to have your coxswain
Yeah.
and your bow hook and your engineman. So that was a duty situation. So it was just kind of, you know, a little bit of everything. You know, there was never anything really set in concrete. But you just, if you were the one next in line, you got the job. You know, that sort of thing. But it was interesting. You know, it kept you on your toes all the time.
Yeah, if you had been at Normandy, you probably would have been in one of the landing craft
More than likely.
operating the engine.
Right. I'd have been the engineman aboard.
Yeah.
And the engineman aboard those, I think, was the one who operated that ramp.
Okay.
We dropped the ramp and then reeled it back up whenever they got ready to leave. But those boat engines, there were 225 horse, 6-cylinder diesel engines, about like they have in the Greyhound buses on the road. And you didn't have a water pump situation or a radiator.
Yeah.
Just pump it in out of the ocean right out the tailpipe. That
Okay.
was the way you cooled the engine. But those impellers, those impellers were neoprene. And they were about 4.5 inches long. Well, the reason for that was when you got into the beach, if you picked up a bunch of sand, it would eat a brass impeller alive.
On the way over, you passed through some interesting places. I mean, first of all, Gibraltar.
Yes, the Rock of Gibraltar.
That had to have been an interesting thing to see.
It certainly is. And to take liberty there, of course, you know, being used to the States, you've got a perspective, like he was talking about, a perspective
Yeah.
of all things around you. You get over there and it's completely different. The streets are narrow, the buildings are like cobblestone,
Yeah.
and they've got those monkeys up there on that, somewhere up on the island on up from where we were at. But, you know, just running up and down that street was quite an experience too.
It would be.
We had one guy, I was short, I do shore patrol duty, and we got everybody back to get ready to throw off the lines and get underway, and he wasn't back yet.
Oops.
So everybody had to go back and redo their uniforms, get all back up into the shore patrol and go back. We found him. He met some little gal over there today. She was working him over, but I tell you, he met Captain's mast right shortly thereafter. Believe me.
I'll bet he did.
Jeez. Yeah, he really caught what for.
Well, those women can get you into trouble,
Oh,
can't they?
I'll tell you what. But it's the Rock. That's of course we had to take on fuel basically because that's all the way across the Atlantic,
Right.
and we used up about everything. But we had oh dear, hang
Okay.
on a minute.
They're on pause
Somebody
there.
at the back door.
That's fine.
Oh, that's my.
Okay.
All right, had a little break there. We were talking about some of the places you saw along the way. The Mediterranean, how is it different from the Atlantic? I mean, is it just...
I don't know what the difference is, but there's a difference in the color of the water.
yeah.
I do remember that, and that's an amazing thing about the water when you're out like that. You wouldn't believe how far down you can see. I mean, even though it's salt water, it's crystal clear.
Huh.
And what used to fascinate me, every once in a while you'd run into a school of porpoises, and they for some reason or other they're like little kids. They want to put on a show, you know.
Yeah.
And here they are diving and jumping out of the water and so on and so forth. And it was, you stand and you can see them when they dive back down underneath. You can watch them
Yeah.
as they swim along.
Huh.
But
They probably think the ship is just another porpoise.
now that could very well be. Of course, there's a lot of whales too. You know, they might be playing
Yeah.
with the whale also.
True.
But
Did you see any whales while you were in the Navy?
not while I was on the Maury. No, I was on another ship after that. So
Okay.
that's another story.
Yeah, all right.
But no, we went through Gibraltar and then the Port Said. We had to go through past Port Said, and they absolutely refused to lower the gangplank. Nobody got off the ship at
Really?
Port Said,
Huh.
and all you had to do was look over there, and you knew why. I mean, it was just unbelievable.
What'd you see?
It's like, I don't know. It's hard to describe. It's an entirely different world. It would be one of those situations where I wouldn't want to walk 10 feet without looking back over my shoulder or having a mirror up there,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
that's the kind of atmosphere you had that feeling, just
Yeah.
scary, basically. But it was thriving. I mean, it was just, constant movement,
Huh.
every in and out, back and forth. There were several ships all there too. Then through the Suez Canal. See, there's a freshwater lake in the middle of the Suez Canal,
Okay.
between ends, about halfway through. And the difference between saltwater and freshwater is when you get into the freshwater, your ship sits deeper in the water because of the buoyancy of the saltwater.
Okay.
There's a difference in between the
Hadn't
two.
thought about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess it would.
Yeah, and they work the way they work it. They'll run them in from both ends
Yeah.
to that freshwater lake, and then they'll stand by there until the traffic changes, and then you go on the other, complete the trip from that point out.
Okay. Now, do you go through a system of locks there, or
No.
is it just
No,
not
it's,
like
it's
the Panama
all
Canal?
it's one level.
Yeah.
It's one level, but there's a constant maintenance. Oh, they have great big rocks laid all along that canal because it's through the sands, through the desert,
Right.
and they've got these rocks, and it takes constant maintenance on that situation to keep that canal open.
I would think it would.
Yeah.
Now, there's a pretty good distance between the sides of the ship and the shoreline
Not
there,
really.
isn't there? Is it
Not-
close?
It's fairly. It's probably. Oh, I would judge. I don't know how you would. I would say probably 6 feet on either side.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And of course, every once in a while you see one of them, we call them bum boats. The old natives with their wooden hulls and all that.
Yeah.
And they go by going. Of course, they're the maintenance crew. They're the ones that run back and forth trying to keep that thing from caving in on both sides.
Right.
So
Huh.
when we came back, I don't remember which time it was, but anyway, that was when the British and the Arabs were mixing it up. They were having the negotiations and all that. So here we come up through the Suez Canal. We don't have any armor to speak of. A couple machine guns is about the armament.
Right.
And here we are with the British on one side with their guns pointing this way, and here's the Arabs on the other side with their guns pointing this way.
Oh boy.
The Tommies are running around with their little tin hats on,
Yeah.
and the Arabs with their white turbans and so
Yeah.
on. And here we are going right through the middle between them. And we went through a full battle station
Huh.
for that area.
So what was your battle
And
station?
my battle station was down in what they call the shaft alley. It's where there's a bulkhead behind the engine room with bearings in it, and then the propeller shaft goes through that,
Yeah.
and then there's another one out here on the back with the bearings in it, a bulkhead,
Okay.
and then beyond the bulkhead there's a strut. So you've got actually two supports out here on the back on the stern end of the shaft alley.
Yeah.
But that was my battle station. Of course, that's down below the water line, so
Yeah.
if something goes wrong, I'm in deep trouble.
Yeah, I reckon.
But yeah, it was. But it was well lighted, and you had to go down there every once in a while and make sure the bearings had. They kept there's an oiler on the top, little container
Right.
that you set a drip, you have to keep that full, or partially full, and it would just a continuous drip, drip, drip. So you have constant lubrication on that bearing. And you really, when you're out like that, you spend more time on maintenance because you know that if something goes wrong, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really hammer that maintenance full time, constantly. But that pays off in the long run because then whenever you reach port, everything is working like it ought to be,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah. You don't have to spend time fixing it
Right,
when you can be out on liberty and.
right. Well, when we came back into the States, we went into dry dock immediately, and that's quite an operation too. When they drive that ship in, it's like driving in the bay of a garage, only no roof over it.
Right.
And I don't know how they figure where the props and all that stuff is supposed to be to support that ship, but they start pumping the water out of that thing, and eventually then here's that ship sitting there on those timbers and everything
Yeah.
with walls look like stair steps all the way down to the bottom. No water, you know, the big old gate back here behind you. So it was, and hot. Good Lord, it was hot in there.
I'll bet.
Yeah, very low. You had, if you didn't have a fan of some kind going, something, you know, it's just. And they had freshwater tanks. They see, one of the things about being a ship like that with what they call a hydroelectric. You use fresh water. You boil the water for the steam, which, you know, so on. You know the process.
Right.
And that water has to be almost pure. I mean, there's a very, very minimal salinity allowed, because if you don't keep it clean, you're going to lime those boilers up to where you can't use them.
Yeah.
So we had evaporators, what they call evaporators. They pump the water in from the ocean, go through the heat it in the evaporators, and the steam then condenses and goes through a condenser and returns back to water, and the brine is pumped overboard.
Okay.
So that's the way they operate that situation. That way you've got constant supply of fresh water. So there again with the maintenance, you know, keep that dude working, because that's your lifeline between there and wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
But it's quite an operation. It's unbelievable how much is involved in keeping one of those ships afloat.
It does. It sounds like a very interesting
Yeah.
operation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a different ship. It's not your standard warship. It's
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. It was a converted Kaiser. What do they call them? Liberty ship.
Liberty ship
Yeah.
or Victory ship, either one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of those sunk by the German submarines during the war,
Yeah.
during World War II. But they'd go, that merchant marine, boy, I tell you what, those guys are, it's quite an outfit. They are, definitely.
Yeah. Highest casualty rate in the Navy during World War II was in the Armed Guard, who
Yeah.
were on the merchant marine ships and manned the guns there. Because those ships would go down, nobody'd stop to get them.
Yeah. Yeah,
Moving around.
that whole convoy just keeps right on moving.
Yeah, has to.
And they tell you that. They told them that before they ever left
Yeah.
port. You know, you realize that's the situation.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because if you come back to get them, you're the
Yeah.
next one in the
Right.
water, and you can't do that. Now, they did have a few trawlers that would come behind them on some convoys,
yeah,
and if you're lucky, they might get to you before you froze to death.
yeah. But see, that's the thing they fought so strongly, was that hypothermia.
Yeah.
Because that cold ocean water is, I mean, it chills your body quickly. But
You sure would. Now, how long did you spend in the Persian Gulf?
we were back late April, early May.
Okay.
So we spent most of the winter months over there. Like
Okay.
it'd be October, November, December, January, February, and March. Probably about 8 months,
Okay.
7 to 8 months.
Not a bad place to spend the winter.
Not really, not really.
Yeah.
We was only 200 miles north of the equator,
Huh.
and but the mean temperature probably was at night was about 68 to 70 degrees. Then it
Yeah.
would get up to 80, 85 during the day.
Yeah.
But we did fight I had one time I was on one of those 40-foot boats, and we had a sandstorm come up,
Oh, gee.
and it's unbelievable to see sand blowing that is almost as thick as any thick fog that you'll ever see here. But the thing about it, as that sand blows through, as it moves through the air or whatever, I don't know exactly how it works, but it creates a great deal of static electricity. Okay, on board those boats, everything was magnetic compass. That's your direction. Your radio is all electronic.
Yeah.
Well, with a lot of static electricity in the air, the compass would sit there and just spin.
Yeah.
And the only way you could tell direction was to remember which way the storm came from.
Huh.
And if the storm changed direction,
You're out of luck.
yeah. But you had to keep steerage way. You had to keep headed into the storm constantly.
Huh.
Because if you didn't, you get turned around and get broadside, and, one of them swells could come by and dump you over.
Yeah.
So you had to maintain steerage way. And that little boat had twin 6-cylinder Buddha diesel engines in them, and they were pretty reliable. They did a pretty good job, but that was there again, that was my job, I was the engineer. That was up to me to keep that thing running. I had to check every time we stopped someplace. I had to check the oil and make sure we had fuel in the tanks and so on.
Yeah.
You know, that was my responsibility. But
During one of the breaks, you said that you tied up next to the Oriskany.
yeah,
At
we
one
were
time.
we were in New York in New York Naval Shipyard, and at that time, if I remember correctly, they were outfitting the Oriskany. In other words, the hull was built and had been launched, but they were in the process of putting all the little
Right.
intricacies, you know, little extra stuff on it. And there I stood there on the top weather deck on that ship I was on, stood and looked up at the flight deck on that Oriskany. That's another interesting thing. This History Channel, I watch it quite a lot, and Discovery.
Yeah.
And they sank that Oriskany down off of Pensacola, Florida.
That's right. They did, didn't they?
Yeah, as a reef,
Yeah.
an artificial reef for the ships or for all the fish and things. But they said that the Oriskany was built to be one of those that would be almost unsinkable.
Huh.
In other words, the way they had the watertight compartments and divisions and everything, you know, throughout the ship. When they started trying to set that thing ready to sink it, it was quite a major operation.
Yeah.
Because they had to go through and set these explosive charges all through that thing, you know, and make sure that it was not watertight. It had to, and they wanted to make, when it sank, they wanted to make sure it sank
Straight down.
straight down. They didn't want to tip over or you know, fore and aft. But it was quite an operation.
Huh.
But it was beautiful. It was a beautiful ship. Beautiful ship.
Well, the money we spent on those things, and then just take them out and dump them in the water.
Yeah. Well, see, now the one of them, there was one that they just recently. You going to go through?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Just go on. Just go on. You'll be fine. Another ship.
Yeah, I was on a PC later on. After two tours of duty over there, you were eligible for transfer if you wanted to.
Okay.
In other words, you could go back if you wanted to, or you could put in for transfer. And I put in for transfer. And there were several guys that I knew that were on this PC out of Newport, Rhode Island. The 572 is what it was.
Okay.
So I put in for a transfer to go on board that PC for the rest of my tour of duty.
Now,
Patrol
craft? Okay.
Yeah. Anti-submarine, what I want to call, not inland waterways, but like shore, you know, not shore duty, but patrol the beach, patrol the shore, up and down, the, you know, out on the water.
How big? What? About the size of a PT boat, or?
It was 142 foot long, had 16-foot beam.
Okay.
It was like riding a cork. It had twin 40 millimeters amidships, and they had a gun tub, and the walkway on the gun tub outside between the side of the ship and the edge of the gun tub was probably about 2.5 to 3 foot wide.
Yeah.
The gun tub took everything else up.
Huh.
Then they had K guns and racks on the stern for the your depth charges.
Okay.
And so it had two. I can't remember the machine gun size. It was two guns up on the bridge, up on the flying bridge. I keep running a 20 millimeter. I think that's what they were, 20 millimeter anti-aircraft.
Okay.
I got to stop.
Okay.
Go.
All right. Trying to think where we were now. Oh, you're on the patrol craft.
Yeah, I
Now-
transferred onto PC.
Now, where were you located? I mean,
The PC?
yeah.
Out of Newport, Rhode Island.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it was home port was. There was about there must have been seven or eight of them.
Yeah.
We just when we come in off a run, we just kind of stack them up, you know, one here and one here and one here, one
Yeah.
here, and tie up next to each other. Whenever you went up shore, you had to cross all four of them to get to the. If you were the outside one. So,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you maybe go out in a group and you come back
No,
as a group, or you just kind of?
Our primary function, the one I was on, was they had the submarines would go into New London, Connecticut, and they go in there for their dry dock and their overhaul and everything.
Right.
Well, then whenever they got them all completed, then they take them out for a shakedown cruise, and we were the station ship. In other words, we were at the one on the surface that was in contact with the submarine all the time.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
So we knew what was going on with them down, all the time that they were under.
Huh.
And we never had one to have a mishap. So
Yeah.
but they used to shoot dummy they practiced their torpedo shooting, and they'd shoot dummy warhead torpedoes at that PC. Well, the sides of the PC are just like, it's almost like paper, real thin.
Oh, gee.
But down in the mess, you could be down in the mess hall, and one of them torpedoes going, you hear that thing go underneath. And then they had a big boat that they had rigged up to where they'd go out and retrieve those torpedoes. They had an open well deck in the back of it with a boom on it where they could hoist them in. But after they'd run their distance, and they just popped to the surface.
Oh, really?
But they could set the depth on them.
Okay.
Regulate the depth. That's good because if they were shooting at us, they would go underneath.
If they'd missed the depth,
Yeah.
Oops. Was that 2 or 3?
Yeah. Yeah. We had a situation develop where somehow or other we got one of the mooring lines in one of the propellers, one of the screws, and it bent. It's because there were brass blades on the screws.
Yeah.
So we had to go alongside. There was a repair ship sitting in the harbor there at the Newport, and it was always a standing joke that they had to move it every 6 months because the coffee grounds built up under it, but we ran up alongside that, and they had a big crane, a boom up on the top, up on the about the third deck up, and it swung out over the side of the ship, and they lowered a cable, and sent a diver, of course he was in just a scuba gear, down and looped that cable underneath the stern of that PC, and lifted the stern of the PC up out of the water, and then they had a raft. I don't remember what they called the raft, but they had a name for it. They run that raft underneath there, took the old propeller off, the old screw, put a new one on it, pulled the raft out from under it, lowered the ship back down in the water, away we went.
Off you went, huh?
Yeah. We also went into dry dock down at Hampton Roads, Virginia, on that PC.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a floating dry dock. And that one is that they run the floating dry dock in alongside underneath you.
Yeah.
And pump the water out, and the whole thing raises.
Lift you up.
The ship and the dry dock and all.
Kind of like they did with the coal when they brought it back.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Same
boy,
situation.
That was something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. And
But
to bring it all the way across the ocean, too.
Yeah. Yeah, they brought that on they put it on a I can't think what they called the ship. Anyway, it was set up for that particular purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually set the coal right up in that ship. It's about like a floating dry dock, only that moved, was transporting. But it was. We were at Newport, Rhode Island for most of the time, and we made a couple trips up. We went through the Cape Cod Canal, only we went through in the water, underneath.
Ah.
We were looking up at the roadway,
Huh.
And of course the Cape comes out, makes a big loop,
Yeah.
and they got that goes in between. But we went right through the Cape Cod Canal.
Huh. Well, it sounded like interesting duty. Were you out to sea very much? I mean, was it like you go out and you come back same day?
Yeah.
Or?
Go out of the morning, come back in the evening.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And we called it seagoing shore duty.
All right.
There were several guys that had their families there in Newport, Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And whenever we pulled in of an evening, they'd go ashore and spend the night with their family and come back aboard ship in the morning.
Yeah.
But on Sunday, buddy, we ate, man. I mean, we ate like kings.
Huh.
Because you had a small complement, and there was a lot of those guys, like I said, that ate, with their families ashore. So all that money that was allotted for they didn't want to lose any of it. So they went ahead and spent it and fed the rest of the crew royally, literally. You could go down on Sunday morning and get up about any time you wanted to, go in there and the cook say, how do you like your eggs this morning? What you want, whole wheat toast? You want white toast? You want sausage? Whatever,
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's a good deal.
Yeah. We had a big old coffee urn over in the corner. And of course, Navy coffee is pretty stout. I mean, you can almost set the spoon in and let loose of it, and it'll just drift over to the side, you know. But this coffee urn had a valve, you know, just open and shut. And got to where you'd open that thing up, and it just a little bitty stream come out, you know. Something wrong here. So one of the cooks said, "Can you do anything with that?" I said, "Well, let me see." I went, looked at it for a minute. I said, "Let me go get some tools." So I went and got some stuff and come back. And this valve is tapered in the spring loaded. And what had happened, that the black stuff that develops after so long a time out of the coffee had almost closed that hole.
Oh, gee.
So I opened that up. I mean, I took it all out of there, all that gunk out of there, you know,
Yeah.
put it cleaned the valve all up and everything, put it all back together. And the first guy that came down to get a cup of coffee, cranked that sucker open.
Whoosh.
He got a bath and coffee. There's two or three things I think about that. Of course, that thing would roll like, you know, you had to learn to walk on that thing.
Right.
Because if you didn't time your steps with the roll of the ship, the pitch, when you come down, if the ship was coming up and you were coming down on your step, you hit that, man, it would jolt you clear to the base of your skull. So you developed sea legs, I guess, basically. And I could walk. I could get on that. We rode that commuter train back down to New York City quite a bit, and I could walk the aisle of that train and never touch a seat on either side.
Yeah.
After a few times, but there was one time we had guys were sitting down eating, and every table had a little lip on it about this high all the way around, so to keep things from sliding off. We'd had sandwiches of some kind, and he had a bottle of ketchup sitting in the middle of the table. And he had just sat down, and he was still had one leg in and one leg out.
Yeah.
And the ship hit a roll. I mean, it was a pretty solid roll, and that ketchup fell off the table, and he fell off the seat, and that ketchup bottle went like that, just spewing ketchup all the time as it turned. He looked like he'd been in a battle when he got up. He was ketchup from head to toe.
Could have applied for a Purple Heart.
Yeah, those are the good things we remember.
Much for the lid.
Yeah. I think he had the lid off. He was getting ready to use the ketchup bottle. So.
You mentioned some of your friends. I mean, who are some of the fellows that you buddied up with in service?
Most of the guys I chummed around with were in the engine room. Of course, on that PC, it was just one big family. You know,
Right.
everybody was. We had a lieutenant was our commanding officer, and we talked him into being a dungaree Navy. And whenever we had a evening meal, we'd go in as long. He said, "I don't care how if you wear your dungarees, that's fine." But he said they better be clean, because he said, "I'm not having you looking like a bunch of, you know, pirates or anything like that." He said, "Clean shaven, clean clothes, that's fine, no problem." So he was easy to get along with.
Yeah.
But when it come time for my enlistment was just about up, he kept after me to re-enlist. You know, kept after me. Finally, I told him, I said one day, I said, "Look," I said, "I have done this. I've thought this out completely." I said, "I've got a number of reasons why I'm not interested."
Yeah.
And a couple of days later, he come by and he said, "You know what?" He said, "You just piqued my interest." He said, "What's all your reasoning?" I said, "If you want to hear it," I said, "it's fine, but it's going to be man to man. It's not going to be white hat to officer. I understand it's off the record."
Yeah.
"Okay, that's fine." He said, "I want to hear what you have to say." So we went in, sit down, and I told him. I said, "I'll shave when I'm daggone good and ready." I said, "If I want to wear a T-shirt to the dinner table of an evening, I'll wear a T-shirt. I'll shine my shoes when I'm ready, and if I don't want to shine them, I'm not going to shine them." And I went on and on and on, you know, listed one thing right after another. After about, I don't know, about 20 minutes, he reserved the wardroom for him and I. He even made the steward go out while I was talking to him. And he finally, when it's over, he said, "I understand fully." That's all was ever said about it.
Thought you were going to say you convinced him to leave the Navy.
No, 'cause he was a career man. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought that, gee, I kind of wish I'd stayed in?
No, not really.
Well, some
really.
guys on occasion will, after they've been working in the factory
Yeah.
so long.
No, I really see the thing. I guess that there are those who live with a, what do I want to call it, a structured life. You know, everything's got to be just so routine and everything. That's perfect for the surface.
Yeah.
But I'm not one of those.
Yeah.
I like my freedom.
Yeah.
I like to come and go as I feel like I want to go. I don't have to be responsible. I don't have to answer to the upper echelon. I do. I mean, I work with my wife a lot on coming and going. But as far as having to report in and, you know, check in and sign out, and
Yeah.
salute when you come aboard and all that kind of stuff, that's fine for that length of time. But I don't want that as a livelihood. I don't want to, you know, I don't want that to be my routine. I'm just not a routine person. That I like. In fact, I like a little bit of turmoil some of the time.
That's why you gave me the watch on that Emmaus walk. Let Don take care of
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So when did you actually get out of the Navy?
I got out September of 1952.
Okay.
I got actually 30 days before my 4 years was up. But they were that enlistment extension had pretty much run its course at that time, and they weren't. In other words, they weren't pushing you to stay for that full time.
Yeah.
And they just kind of said, you know, they were very lax about it, which is good, because I enjoyed that part of it too. So.
Yeah.
But no, it was. They said that before I went on board that PC, they was telling about they had a skipper was, I guess he was Indian, and he liked to play, and he rolled a couple of depth charges off the stern of that ship, and he said they had it set pretty shallow. He said when that thing let loose, he said the stern of the ship come up out of the water and came back down, and about half the light bulbs went out over. They had to replace a lot of the light bulbs. But
They didn't do that again.
no.
Sink his own ship.
Yeah, we used to race every once in a while. There was 2 or 3 of us, you know, coming back into the
Yeah.
harbor, and we get to see one going up over there. When the old man would come up and he'd say, "Crank her up a couple turns, you know, wind her up." We come out a couple times. We run almost full throttle coming in. But, I think if the brass had known about that, they'd have had all of us hanged.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Reminds me of that incident that Kennedy got himself in. The deal was that the first boat back got fueled first, and then you were done for the night.
Yeah.
So he would always try to be the first PT boat back in the shore. One time, you know, he had a habit. He would go as fast as he could, and then he'd reverse the engines right at the last minute. And one time he tried to reverse the engines, and they didn't reverse.
Yeah, yeah.
He went right into a maintenance shack or something on the end of the dock. They put him at the back of the line that day.
Well, we came in one time, and of course those engines. There was two 1,800 horse diesel engines in there, and they were what they call a opposed piston. They had two cylinder. They had 2 pistons in each cylinder,
Right.
and a crankshaft on the top and the bottom. And we had to blow that thing down before we started out. They had an air petcock on each cylinder.
Yeah.
We go down, open up those all up, and then crank it over a few times with the air start, and go back down and close them all off. Well, after you have started and stopped a few times, you've got an air compressor on there and a big tank up on the bulkhead up here.
Right.
And that air compressor keeps pumping the air in there, and that, as long as you've got air pressure, everything works. You know, you can back down or run forward or however, but everything is run by air. Well, the old man got to playing one time. He wanted to use pull a couple of what do you want to call it, routine drills.
Yeah.
And man overboard was one of them. Well, you stop and start, you know, and reverse and so on and so forth. Well, he used up all of his air pressure, and the compressors didn't have enough time between then until we got to the pier to get built back up, and so we took 2 pilings out with our bow anchor, chonk chonk, as we came in. They read the riot act to him on that too.
Oh boy. Nothing ever happens in the peacetime Navy.
Oh,
right?
no, no. Don't you ever believe it. There's as much happens there as in wartime, I think.
Oh boy.
I was trying to think if there was another. Oh, we went out one time operating, and I'm not sure why we were out that day, but it was real windy and it was cold, and the wind was blowing. Of course, when you're underway, you're naturally going to cause some spray.
Yeah.
And that whole superstructure of that ship was just coated with ice.
Yeah.
When we got back in alongside the dock, we had to take the fire hoses and wash that all down, wash it all off there.
Yeah.
So, but it was nasty. I was trying to if there's any. I don't think there's anything else that I can remember.
You didn't take the Admiral water skiing or anything?
Oh no!
Like that?
Oh, we had one though. That brought up a point. They, we were in Newport, Rhode Island when they first come up with the atom bomb. I mean, after the atom bomb was used.
Right.
And one of the things they were trying to do was to set it up so that you could understand what to do if you happen to run into an atomic explosion, which is possible.
Yeah.
So the idea was that when the explosion went off, it would set a tidal wave. So you aim into the tidal wave. I mean, aim into the to the explosion until the tidal wave passes. Then you do 180 and you haul freight out of there.
Yeah.
Well, on board that ship, see, this is all. The throttle was a little crank over here. You crank the wheel, turn it up, get your RPMs up on your engine. We had a full captain, 4-striper, on board that day, was running us through all of our, all of our routines and everything. And we went through that, we hit that shock wave and made the turn, and they rang up full ahead. I was happened to be on the starboard throttle at that time. Wind that sucker up. And that ship's actually squatted in the water. They dumped that 4-striper right on his butt, right up there in the up there in the wheelhouse. And his eyes got about as big as quarters. He got up, brushed his seat off, said, "Well done, man."
Good for him. Because that's the point. If you can dump the skipper, you can.
Yeah. Well, we had a guy up there that was a bosun mate, and he was a character. He was a trickster. So we had a new ensign come aboard ship, just fresh out of school, and no sea duty, no experience of any kind. And he was up there watching everything, and this bosun mate turned to him, his chief bosun mate, and he said, "Sir, would you like to take the wheel?" And of course, this ensign's eyes got real big. Boy, this is a real experience. So there was a nut on the shaft where that wheel hung on. Yeah. And the bosun mate had loosened that nut, so he just spun that nut. It dropped off in his hand. He just pulled the wheel off and handed it to the ensign. And I tell you what, I thought he was going to have apoplectic right on the spot.
That's funny. That's a good one.
We had a time, I'll tell you.
I'll bet you did.
Yeah, we'd pull Liberty. Well, there was one night of course, at the end of close to the end of the pay period, most everybody was broke. So we was trying to figure out how can we go ashore. This is while we was in Newport. How can we go ashore and enjoy ourselves, an evening? I said, I know what we could do. I said, let me I took my flat hat, not flat hat, the white hat, turned it inside out like a bucket. Yeah. And most of the guys, when they come back off Liberty, would take their change out, put in their locker, but when they go back over on Liberty, they'd leave their pennies. They'd take the silver, but leave the pennies. So I went all over the ship and gathered up all the pennies and put them in that white hat. And then I took the white hat, I put it in a paper bag. I said, "Hey, guys, let's go ashore." So there was 4 or 5 of us went up, and we went to this little restaurant, and they had a beer garden there, Yeah. So we were drinking draft beer. And we told this waitress, said, now, we set this bag of pennies up on the table. And we told her, he said, when that's gone, we're done. We're out of here. So every time she'd bring around, she'd count out the pennies. And, after so long a time, we used up all the pennies. And she said, "Good night," and away we went. But we had a good time. We just sat around, talked, like we're doing here.
Yeah.
Just jabbered away, But, nobody got soused. I mean, we just had a few beers and let it go with that.
Yeah. You couldn't get too deep into it with
no, not for the
full pennies.
I don't have any idea how many pennies we had there, but well, we had 2 or 3 glasses.
So you left the Navy. You mustered out where? Newport?
Yeah, Newport, Rhode
Okay.
Island.
And then
There was an incident that happened that was interesting. There must have been 25 or 30 guys in there, was all of us in the process of mustering out.
Mhm.
And we had a chief petty officer was explaining all the benefits that we had coming to us, going through. We had a stack of papers there on the desk going through stuff. Finally, he come up and he said, let's talk about re-enlistment. And I'll tell you what, out of the 20 guys that were in that room, if there was 20, there wasn't one of them that looked up. Everyone was looking down at their desks, shuffling papers and going on. Petty officer stood there for a minute and he said, I can see nobody's interested in this. So he said, let's move on to the next item. Yeah.
they learned their lesson,
Yeah, they sure did.
Could have made it out the door, taking the oath, but instead
There wasn't no way we're going to do it then again.
no second mistakes there.
Nope.
So, how'd you get back home? Did you go back to Brockway?
Yeah, that's something I don't remember too much about. I'm not sure. I think they loaded us on a train. I'm pretty sure they did. And Mom and Dad met the train, and of course from there on it was hoop-de-doo, and glad
yeah.
to be home and all that sort of thing. It was good. I mean, I remember it as far as the feeling I had
Yeah.
was excellent. I was outstanding. But the details, I don't recall too many of the details of it. I'm really not sure how I did get back from up there. But I do know, see, they paid my transportation from their home. And whatever I designated as home, I could go either train or bus or
Okay.
any way I wanted, except for I didn't fly any. While I was in there, I had a weekend one time and I wanted to go home. I had a pass for the weekend.
Right.
So I decided, I might try to fly home. So I went to the airport. This was in New York. This was in LaGuardia Field.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there. I walked up to the counter, the ticket counter, and I asked the gal if there was any flights scheduled for Pittsburgh. That's where I wanted to go.
Right.
And she said, "Well, we have them, but they're all grounded." The weather was nasty.
Yeah.
But she said, "I'll tell you what." She said, "Why don't you go over there and sit down?" And she said, "The first cancellation we have, I'll see that you have a seat." I said, "That's good by me." And I said, I went over there and sat down. I bet I wasn't there 5 minutes. She called me over and she said, "We got one," and she gave me all the information, and everything. And I went out and got on board the plane. And they were so stacked up that they were crossing each other on the runway. One would come in, one would go out.
Yeah.
One would come in, one would go out.
Wow.
Just a routine going.
Nerve-wracking.
But there was an elderly lady got on, and she sat down in the seat beside me. First of all, she wanted to know if that seat was taken. I said, "No, it's open. Fine, you can have it."
Yeah.
So she sat down there, and of course, as soon as that thing, they flipped that sign up there that says, "Oh, loosen your seatbelts," man, I'm out of it. I'm zonked out. We got almost into Pittsburgh, and of course, the hostess came by and woke everybody up, told us put your seatbelts on. We're getting ready to land. This old lady turned to me and she said, "Son," she said, "you must have a clear conscience." And I said, What gives you that? I mean, what makes you think that?" She said, "Anybody that can sleep like you did while we were in that air." She said, "Evidently it was rough. It was, turbulent." She said, "Anybody can sleep like you did on this airplane has got to have a clear conscience." I said, "Well, maybe."
Yeah.
But it took longer to get from the airport to downtown Pittsburgh than it did to get from New York to Pittsburgh.
It probably did.
Yeah, the traffic and everything.
Still does.
Yeah. But
Of course, anybody that's seen the bow of a ship go underwater can
yeah,
probably sleep through a little
I
turbulence.
well, at that time I could sleep any place I could lay my head down.
Yeah.
Used to staying up all hours of the night, and we'd go out and stay on Liberty, go out at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and maybe be 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, get back and sleep for a couple hours and get up and go the full day, and say, "Boy, I'm going to go to bed early tonight. I'm going to go and get my shower and go to bed early." So you get your shower and you think, man, I feel pretty good. I think maybe I'll just go ashore for a while. So I don't know how many times I did that. But
This is why they don't let young people run for president.
yeah, there you go. But no, I got out of the Navy in 1952 in September. And I came out, well, I came out here with Mom and Dad in July. Dad came out here in July of 51 or 52? 51. But anyway, I came out with, I was on 30-day leave at the time. So I just rode with him to come out here and get him set, situated.
Okay.
And then I went back and I was still in the service at that time. And then when I got mustered out, I can't remember whether I came to Indianapolis or whether I went to Pittsburgh. But anyway, wherever it was, Mom and Dad met me.
Yeah.
And then we went from there, And I started in trying to develop into civilian life.
So when you went home, did you go home to Brockway or go home to Lapel?
I think I came out here
Okay.
because it was where my folks were. See, that's
Right.
Mom and Dad were out here. And I didn't have had no job and no friends back. I mean, I had some friends back
Yeah.
there, but no real close acquaintances or anything. And guys that I graduated from high school with, I hadn't seen some of them in 4 years. So I really didn't have any reason to go back there.
Yeah.
So I just came on out here, and I made a couple friends out here. One guy, I don't know whether you know him or not, his name is Hib Green. He worked in the mobile shop. He worked for Dad down there. And he and I got acquainted. Of course, he's one of those guys that never met a stranger.
Yeah.
He could talk to anybody. So he said to me something about, well, you want to go fishing? I said, well, I wouldn't mind. So I had, of course, I was discharge papers, veterans thing,
Mm-hmm.
Said, you don't even need a license. He said, you're a serviceman. He said, you can go free of charge.
Yeah.
I said, great. I said, I don't have any equipment. He said, don't worry about that. He said, I got everything we're going to need. So he and I started chilling around. We'd go fishing out there with some of these little ponds and
Yeah.
creeks and stuff. And he taught me how to snare suckers. And, that's kind of he just took me under his wing, literally.
Huh.
But he was a good guy. I liked him. He passed away here a while back.
So you went to work at Brockway?
When I first got out of the service, no, I went to work for Pierce Governor.
Okay. All right,
I worked
sure.
for Pierce Governor for, I don't know, about 18 months, I guess.
Huh.
And they had a slowdown and got laid off. So when I got laid off, well, that's when I was kind of floating around. And I had reached a point. In fact, I went out when we lived there by the Trinity Church, and I went out and sat on the stoop and I was sitting there with, I guess, my head in my hands. Mom came out and said, well, Mary, don't you feel good? And I said, oh, I just kind of discouraged. I said, I just got out of the service and no job, and I can't seem to get anything started.
Yeah.
And she said, think about it. You'll be all right. I said, well, I suppose. But I said, I'm about ready to go back and re-enlist. And she said, well, why don't you wait a week or so? And I said, okay. Well, within a week, then I got a call from Pierce Governor to come to work. So I went out there and ran a drill press for about a year and a half. Yeah. I never did make the quota. I think the whole time I was out there, I never did make the. See, they rated it. The job
Right.
comes through and it's going to take you so much time. It should be done. And shoot, I was running at full tilt as far as I could go, and I still couldn't make.
Still couldn't make it.
Yeah.
Didn't have a very strong union, did they?
No. No, it was a aircraft. I can't even remember the name of it now.
Yeah.
But it was aircraft parts that we were making. Aluminum stuff is what we were using. Aluminum governors
Okay.
for aircraft engines.
Okay. Now, I never did know exactly what they made there.
Yeah, helicopters and I think some of it was jet engine. When that was in the jet engine was in the
Right.
developmental stage.
Yeah.
So that they ran good. I mean, they ran good hours.
Yeah.
I worked 6 days a week practically all the time I was out there until they slowed down.
Yeah.
And then the general store moved in. Pierce Governor moved out, and the general store moved in. So
Yeah.
in the old building.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I'm thinking that my wife's aunt, Louise Ellis, was a secretary there at Pierce. I think that's where she worked.
Yeah.
I
Pierce
don't-
Governor. Their office was over on Columbus Avenue,
Okay.
but the shop I worked on was on Fairview Street.
Okay. All right. I didn't know. There again, I didn't know it was separate facilities. I thought it was all just one building.
Yeah, well, it was
Yeah.
just one big long building, but they had all kind of machinery, you know, drill presses and
Yeah.
milling machines and all that kind of stuff in there. I ran a big radial drill one time. They were making a nut for a large nut, and it had to be threaded. And I had to run this big radial drill, and it was, of course, was automatic. Once it
Right.
started, it spun it down and back up, and then just take one out, put another one in, and, you know, production line.
Yeah.
But yeah, saw a guy get hurt out there one time, one bad. He was running a multiple spindle drill press, and he was running one of them. He had it wound out. I mean, it was cranked up, and he excuse me just a minute.
Okay. Okay, and you were saying the fellow got hurt on the
Yeah,
local
he
drill?
was running a multiple spindle drill press, and it was in the wintertime, and it was cold, and of course we had our sweatshirts and stuff, you know, and he had a flannel shirt on, and he had the cuff rolled back about 2 or 3 rolls, and he had a little piece of scraper, and he was reaching back in, scraping chips, you know, cleaning the table off, and somehow or other that he had that bit of his shirt sleeve was hanging out, and that drill press, that spindle caught it, and it of course it scared him, and he dropped. It pulled the sleeve off the shirt, but when he dropped, it caught him here at the rib cage and pulled him up clear to his belt line before that sleeve kind of broke loose. Finally broke loose. So he was bruised up. He had a pretty nasty looking scrape on his side, on his rib cage. They took him to the hospital, but he came back to work the next day.
Well, that'd stop your heart, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but the next day when he went to clean the machine, he shut everything down.
Hear that?
Yeah, there was one guy that he was running a boring mill, and there was 2 holes that were coming together, and the one that he had a big, I don't know, inch and a quarter cutter was coming down, drilling or cutting a hole in it. That head was a rough casting. We're just finishing it.
Yeah.
He was reaching up in there raking chips out with his finger where that cutter was coming down, and I walked by and I said, "What in the world are you doing?" He stopped and looked at me. "Well, I'm just raking chips." I said, "You're raking chips with your finger, that cutter coming down like that?"
Yeah.
He said, "What happens if that thing catches one of them chips?" I said, "Where's your finger going to be?" He just, like somebody pulled a plug, he just turned completely white. And he said, "Oh my, I never thought about that." So he went and got him a little piece of dowel rod then and started raking it. I said, "Now that's smart, you know."
Oh boy.
So I tell you, I've seen some weird things in that shop. Yeah, I rode with the 4 guys from town here, and but no, it was something else.
So from Pierce Governor, where'd you go?
Let me think a minute. Pierce Governor. I got laid off at Pierce Governor. I drew unemployment for a while. Oh, I was when I went to Firestone. I worked at Firestone, the machine shop out there for about 18 months. Yeah. Running lathes and milling machines and such as that.
In Noblesville?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The boss man came up to me one time, and he had a piece of stalk about, probably 8-10 inches long, and it was about, I suppose, maybe ½ inch diameter, cold rolled steel.
Yeah.
It had a little undercut in the middle, looked, like it had a clip or something over it.
Yeah.
So he said, "Here," he said, "I want something." He said, "I need to make a new one of these." So I set it up in the lathe and checked it all out, checked the diameter, run it, cut that groove on it and everything. I took it in, laid it on his desk, and he said, "Oh no, no." He said, "That's where the bearing goes. That's what's been worn off of that shaft."
Oh.
I said, "You said you wanted one just like
Just
it."
like
I said,
it.
There it is. So he said, "Yeah, you're right." He said, "Go to the crib and get another piece of stalk. Just cut it to the right length."
He told you.
Yeah.
He told you. And then from there you went to Guidon?
No, I went to Terre Haute. I was down at Terre Haute for 3 years. Some glass company down there. I can't think what they were. I can't even think of the name of it now. But having had the experience that I had, as in the mold shop here, I went and served my trade at Brockway.
Yeah.
Now wait a minute. When I left. Wait a minute. Let me think a minute. I left Pierce Governor and went to work at the glass factory.
Yeah.
And then I got appointed as an apprentice because of the time I had in service. That gave me another year or two on my age
Right.
limit. And I learned my trade there. And then when they had a strike down there, and I had to get some bread and butter on the table for a wife and kids. So I went to work, and I had to go get my tools out. And they told me I could come back if I wanted to. Well, when it come time to go back, I went and talked to the man, and he said, you'll have to go talk to the higher echelon at Burt Brockway, the main office. I said, okay. So I went up there. Well, Dad was my foreman.
Yeah.
And they said, you just because your name is what it is, you don't need to expect special treatment. I said, fine, you can take your job, and I'll find something else. So I came back then, and I worked at, that was when I went to Firestone.
Yeah.
I got laid off there, laid off at Firestone and went to Terre Haute, and worked down there for 3 years. And a guy came up to me one day and said, you're interested in going to work at Guide? I said, yeah, I am. So he gave me an application. They gave it to me on Tuesday. I filled it out, gave it back to him on Wednesday. And Thursday, they called me, wanted to know if I'd come in for an interview on Friday. Before I left on Friday, I had the job.
Wow.
So just boom, boom, boom,
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
For getting such a not much traction to begin with, you just
Right.
really took off with that one.
Yeah. See, I was working at Western Electric at the time.
Okay.
And they when I first started down there, they were working some overtime. I was making pretty decent money, and I didn't want Linda to have to go to work. So, like I said, I was making pretty decent money, and as that long time went by, they kept cutting the overtime down. Of course, by the time I'd been there 4 years, I was making the same much money on the year as I was, when I first started.
Yeah.
Even with all the raises and stuff. So. And when he said something about going to work for Guide, I said, man, I'll take it if I can get it. And I filled the application. Well, Billy Walker was the guy that talked to me. Him and Dave Holding were the two that I interviewed with when I went up to talk to him.
Yeah.
And they were satisfied with what I was doing. So.
Worked in the tool room at Guide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I actually went into the die-cast area for a week.
All right.
And then, of course, with all the union activity and everything, it wound up on second shift at the north end of tool room.
Right.
And I spent the rest of my time working up there. So.
When did you retire?
94.
Retired in 94.
Yeah. September. June of 94.
Got out while the getting was good.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure enough.
Now they're tearing the plant down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah. I get tickled at Ron Hofer. I don't know how long he'd been there. Anyway, when I walked in that one day, I walked in there on a Saturday or on a Friday, and looked at that bench, and I said, "What in the world are you doing in here?" I'm 65, 66 years old. I'm due for retirement. I could draw Social Security. Why not go and enjoy some of it? So I went to the office and filled my papers. I came back and told Ron, and he still can't get over it because. He was planning on getting out way ahead of me, see.
Yeah.
So, and every once in a while I'd go through the shop, two or three of the guys, I'd say, hey, look at there. And I'd point at my calendar. I had a calendar on the wall. I only got a couple more days left. I'll see you. Walk on.
Like that freedom, don't you?
You got it. You got it.
Now, know you're married.
Yeah.
So what is your wife's name?
Linda Lou.
And maiden name?
Fisher.
Fisher? Okay.
Yeah.
Where'd you meet her?
That's a weird story. At the time, I was a scoutmaster, and her brother was in the scout troop. And one night, she came down. She was driving. She's I think 3 or 4 years older than him. So she came down to pick him up after scout meeting, and I was running around there doing something. I walked out and spoke to her, and she said something about her and her girlfriend was going roller skating in Noblesville. Said if you're going to do, and of course I wasn't doing anything. I didn't have any ties or nothing.
Yeah.
Said, why don't you come on over? Said, we'll be over there at Noblesville. I said, okay, I'll see you in a little bit. So I went over, and that did it. I started chasing her till she caught me.
So you knew right from the get-go, huh?
Yeah, but I didn't tell her that. See.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's out now.
Yeah. Well, It's on tape, so I'm at it. No,
So
we've had 50 good years.
50 good years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Be 51 in September.
She's a nice lady.
Yeah, she's done a good job. She's one of those people that can do anything. That all this stuff that you see around, most of the stuff that she is done. She made that shelf up there to put up all those little houses, put the lights in them, and all this. She made all this stuff in these little. Now the bells, she collected bells for a while, but these little people in this cabinet over here, she's made all of them.
Huh.
She works that modeling clay.
Yeah?
And then once she gets it where she wants it, gets the colors and the facial expressions and everything, she's got one of them little portable ovens in there. She bakes it, and it stays.
Oh,
It's a
for
permanent.
sakes.
And then she puts lacquer on it to keep the color, and
Yeah.
everything.
Very
she's-
talented.
Huh?
Very talented.
She is quite talented. She plays the piano and organ.
Yeah.
Has played the organ at church for many years.
Yeah.
And,
Did she make the TV and the VCR and?
no, that we bought all
Okay.
that. She and I put it together, but I mean, no, it's all been purchased.
And you have children.
Yeah, I've got two. I got three boys.
All right, their names and a little something about each one,
Okay,
please.
David. Wait a minute. I'll start at the oldest. James Edward. He works for Lilly, and he's been. Let me think. He's due for. He's got 2 years, I think, to retirement, and he built a home north of town. He's married. Little gal he married had a problem early on in life and had her organs removed,
Yeah.
and she can't have children, of course, but they've got a pretty home out north of town, and he's about to retire, and he's trying to figure out something to do after he gets out of retirement. And I got Michael, and Michael was the, what do I want to call it? He's the ornery one of the crowd. He's had more cars in his lifetime, or he's had more cars up to now in his life than I've had in my entire life. And he's a mechanic, works for E&B Paving,
Okay.
and he's married. He's been married 3 times, and he's got 2 children by the other marriage.
Yeah.
And then there's 3 with the marriage of the lady he's got married to now. So we've got a total of 7 grandkids.
Yeah.
And then there's David, which he just recently got divorced. He's looking for a job. But he worked for Airco, Heating and Air in Anderson
Okay. Yeah.
for a long time as an installer.
Yeah.
And then he worked for the trailer place, Modern Trailer.
Modern Trailer.
He worked out there for about 4 months.
Yeah.
And he got messing around, and he got to where he didn't feel like he wanted to go into work. And after a couple times of that, they said, well, sorry, we
Yeah.
can't use you. You pack your tools and get out.
Yeah.
So then he run into, he mashed a finger while he worked out there, and he got on the pain pills, and I think they got the best of him. So he's just now beginning to get that ironed out. But he's quite active in church, and I think he's on his way. If he can find himself an employment,
It's tough.
Yeah.
These are not easy days for.
yeah.
And I admire the struggle that some of these guys
Oh,
get through.
Yeah, he's been. Of course, he's about out of unemployment.
Yeah.
But he had a job interview just a short time ago over at. It's Warner something in Springs. It's on 37, there by the new that new shopping center.
Mhm.
It's across the road, catty corner from
okay.
that. And he's been down and talked to them. He went and had the urine test, check for drugs and so
Yeah.
on. So he's trying. You got to give him credit for at least putting forth the effort. But he's divorced, and that really ate him up. That really.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So-
Where were we?
Well, we've gotten pretty much through the family now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. David's the youngest one. He's, like I said, he's looking for work, but he's got 2 children, a boy and a girl, and the divorce really tore him up because he had no inkling that it was happening until he was told it was over.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an inkling that I probably shouldn't say anything, but I don't think that she was as true as she could have been. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I won't go any further than that.
Yeah.
That's, you know.
Yeah, those are tough situations.
Yeah.
I really feel for him, could I?
Boy, it really hurt him. It
Been
really,
through one of those myself.
Yeah, it really hurt him.
Yeah.
So. But he's, like I said, he's on his way. He's on his way.
You know, sometimes when you hit bottom like that, perspective changes, and you
Yeah.
begin doing things that you might not have done if you just
Right.
things are just going easy for you.
Right, and I think in most cases we're stronger as a result of it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Of course, when I was out running around, I was engaged to be married twice before I met Linda,
Yeah.
and neither one of them worked out, which is fine because
Yeah.
I found out later what both individuals were like, and I don't think I could have handled it.
I think you did all right.
Yeah, I did well.
You did very well.
I did well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we've had a good years. I mean, there's like a buddy of mine said, 5 happy years out of 50, that ain't bad. No, erase that.
Too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you've had a very full and interesting life.
Oh, I have.
And
I
very different. This has been a very different interview for us because you've been in areas that we haven't
Never touched
dealt
on.
with before. Yeah. Is there anything that you haven't gotten around to doing that you wish you could do? I mean, you've had all
No,
the time, and money, and health, and
No, I look at it this way. I've had a good life. I've got grown family. I got good grandkids. I'm proud of all of them. I've lived a full life, you know. And I'm active in the church, and I'm going to remain that active there. As far as wanting to do anything other than that, I don't think so. I feel like in some of the travels, like for example, when we went into Naples, Italy, I saw some of the destruction that was left over from the war, and some of the people that I saw there that I tell you what, they'd have sold their soul for a pack of cigarettes. And I look at that and I think, my God, how blessed I am
yeah,
to have lived the way I do, and have the experience that I've had over the years. You know, I got no complaints whatsoever, none at all. And a happy life and just perfectly satisfied, you know.
Yeah.
I don't lay around, and I'm not a couch potato. I don't don't do that. I play with the computer some, but as far as active is concerned, I try to stay active.
Yeah, it sounds like you've seen some parts of the world that make lapel look awfully good.
Oh, you got that right. Absolutely. All the places, you know, and in all the places that I've been over the years, I've never found anything that I felt was any better than what we had here in the States. When I came back from the first trip over to the Persian Gulf, we pulled into Norfolk, Virginia, and I was on the list to be one of the first to go on 30-day leave. Mm-hmm. And I hopped a bus in Norfolk, Virginia, and it came up through the mountains into Pennsylvania. I don't even tell you which one it was.
Yeah.
But as I was riding along, I opened the window up, and it was in the summer. It was in May, and all the dogwood was in bloom, and all the May apples and all that kind. And the aroma was fantastic. You know, Of course, what I was used to over there was sand, flies, sky, and water. That was basically it. But there was 2 or 3 people got a little bit upset with me because I just wide opened that window and sat there, man. I had my head over there, soaking it up just like it was going out of style. Yeah. But and I really enjoyed that ride home.
That's quite a picture.
Oh yeah,
That's quite a picture.
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And of course, me in my dress blues, my white hat cocked back on my head,
Yeah.
living life like Riley.
So, what'd you get out of being in the Navy?
A lot of good experience,
Yeah.
a learning experience. I learned to deal with people by being a second-class petty officer. I had some responsibility, not a whole lot, but I learned to deal with get along with people pretty well. And of course, I had a learning experience in being a diesel mechanic.
Yeah.
It was great. I had 2 commanding officers when I was over there in the Persian Gulf. The first one over, I don't even remember his name, but he was a spit and polish man.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to do by the book or else, you know. And really that trip really didn't do me.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it at all. The second one we had was Captain Anderson. I never will forget him. We had an engine repair shop there on the ship, and he would come in full in his uniform, scrambled eggs and all.
Yeah.
So everybody say, attention on deck. Before you can move, he says, as is, stand still, stand fast, do as you're doing, don't worry about me. He said, I'm just looking.
Huh.
And he'd stand there for a little bit, talk to you, and move you on. But he was one of those guys that if he'd have asked us to jump overboard, probably we would have.
Huh.
But, there was just a difference between the two. The other one I would have probably, I don't know what it might have
Thrown him
been.
overboard.
Yeah, we had probably thrown him overboard. He lost his scrambled egg hats one time. We pulled in took him over on a boat to go to the compound there in Rastanura.
Yeah.
And he came back and he was higher than a kite. We pulled the boat up and the boat moved a little bit, moved just a little bit far, and he went to step for it and he missed it. Down he went. Scrambled egg hats and all. He had a diver over the next day looking for that scrambled eggs hat. I don't think they
Oh,
ever
for
did
heaven's
find it.
sakes.
Of course, the currents over there, there was no.
Boy, he's just lucky somebody pulled him in.
You got it. Yeah, there was. We had a crew there that dragged him aboard, but, jeez, it was something.
Oh boy, that's funny.
Now, we pulled in there to Naples, Italy, and that was strange because most times whenever we'd pull into the pier somewhere, we'd pull up alongside the pier. Well,
Yeah.
over there you backed in, and then they had these big square air tanks that they'd make a catwalk out from the pier to the gangway, and then you'd walk out there and up, of course, up onto the gangway.
Yeah.
We had one guy. He was a chief petty officer. He went ashore and he had a press camera. Now this is Class A gear. This is one you have to sign out, and if you don't get it back, you pay for it.
Yeah.
So he had this camera, and I don't know what in the world he got into, but the last thing I remember seeing him, he came roaring down that walkway, that catwalk, in his shoes, socks, and his shorts and T-shirt, and his chief's hat with his press camera under his arm. Yeah. He'd go get that press camera back, in spite of whatever happened.
That's one where the captain looks out and says, "I don't want to know."
Yeah, I don't have any idea. But of course, the OD was another chief petty officer, and all he had to do was salute, and he was on his way.
That'd be funny if he dropped the camera while he saluted.
Oh man, he would have been in deep trouble.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I don't know. I keep thinking about all these little incidents that happened while I was in there, and God, I'll tell you what. I did go to the Vatican City. I did see the Vatican.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay, what'd you see there?
We had an audience with the Pope. I
Did
was
you
one
really?
of a whole
Yeah,
army of people, but we watched him come in. He had the what they call the Italian guard
Yeah.
that carried him in on the Sudan chair, and the Pope setting up on the chair, and they took him up. He got off. They set him down up there, and then he did his thing with the blessing and all,
Huh.
and it was fascinating.
Would it be a Pius?
That was one of the pious, I think, but I don't remember which one.
They had Pius, and then they had Paul, I think, and then John Paul and John Paul II.
Well, this was Pius. This was
It would've been
Pius,
Pius,
maybe
yeah.
the last Pope Pius.
Yeah.
Okay, but that would be 50 or 51. I'm not
Yeah.
sure which one.
Yeah, that would have been him.
Yeah,
Ha.
that was quite a thing too.
Not too many
You know,
people have seen that.
No, and Vatican Square, it's unusual. It's so different. It's just you can't really believe how enormous the thing is, or how much different that it is than what you would see anywhere else.
Yeah.
But it's a Vatican City, and it's part of the Catholic Church. It belongs to the Catholic Church. And of course, he's got his little quarters there. We didn't see that part of it, but when they brought him in, it was just a matter of we were there and we had the audience that considered it.
Huh.
So he was quite a guy.
Did he look over and say, "Hi, Bill"?
Yeah, no, I'm not going there. We had a joke at the Emmaus walk one time, and I'm not going there.
So that's why you didn't join the Catholic Church.
Yeah, I guess so.
He snubbed me, darn it.
Oh dear. You know, I really felt bad. I feel bad about the fact that during the entire time that I was in the Navy, I think I did very little as far as the church was concerned. I went to church on Sunday when I had to. Of course, when they were in boot camp, Sunday morning you went to church, and went to Engineman school at Great Lakes. On Sunday morning you went to church.
Yeah.
Once I got out of got out to the real world, if you will, I kind of got away from that until I got out of the service. So I got back to the service, from the service, then I started going on a regular basis, and I've been going ever since.
It's good. Good.
But,
Well, we getting toward the end of the tape here. We always give our veterans a chance to say a few words for posterity. You got any words of wisdom or personal philosophy that's kind of carried you through in life?
Do a lot of listening. Do a lot of listening. I think God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, and sometimes we need to listen more than we talk. And I've been, in fact, I've gotten myself into some difficulties once or twice on account of that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to elaborate on that, but I opened my mouth a couple times and probably should have kept shut, or maybe I was accused of more than I did, but
Yeah.
that's neither here nor there, you know.
Yeah.
That's basically my philosophy. I mean, just do a lot of listening, a lot of learning. You know, you never get too old to learn.
That's right.
You never get
That's
too
right.
old to learn. And I dearly love to read the scriptures. And in fact, I've got a book out there that I got from. It's called Good News, and it has to do with the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And it is quite enlightening.
Yeah.
And I've done some study on that before, but there again, it comes back to listening and learning rather than talking.
That's right.
You know, I will share it with anybody that wants to listen. I mean, I'm not
Yeah.
going to keep it to myself if it gets the opportunity. I'll tell you what I have to say, but I try not to push my thoughts on somebody else, because I can't make anybody else believe the way I believe.
Yeah.
And I don't want to try, because I may be wrong. You know, I don't think I am, but then again,
Well, you
who
lead
am
by
I to say
example
what?
too.
Huh?
You lead by example too. You're
Well,
a good guy, and that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I try to get at, like with this men letting breakfast thing. I've been on the committee now for several years. They call me chaplain. Whenever we have our gathering, well, I get the opportunity to share some kind of a devotion with the guys, and
Yeah.
they apparently look forward to it because they never miss it. So, but that's basically it. I mean, that's me.
Well,
That's my life history, really.
Engineman Hormell, I want to thank you for this interview, for
Oh.
your service to our country. I
Yes,
really
sir.
appreciate you taking the time with us tonight.
Oh yeah, I'm glad to. I think it's